Hi, welcome back guys. This is your sensei, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. The world was coming to an end, the battlefield littered with the bodies of friends and comrades. The only one still breathing and standing was lying on the ground, surrounded by the blood of those he had lost. He had golden blonde hair and sapphire eyes, with whisker-like markings on his cheeks. His name was Naruto. "Kit," a deep voice called out to him. "What is it, Kurama?" Naruto replied, his voice weary and broken. Despite having defeated Madara and Kaguya, he felt the weight of his losses. His friends were gone, his village destroyed, and he was all alone in this world. Kurama could sense Naruto's despair and felt a pang of sympathy. "Kit, are you okay?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. He had grown fond of Naruto and didn't want to see his cheerful demeanor replaced by gloom. "Kurama, everyone is gone. My friends, Tsunade-chan, Kakashi-sensei, Sakura, Sasuke, and the village. They're all gone," Naruto said, sorrow filling his voice as tears welled in his eyes, grieving the losses he had suffered. Kurama looked at Naruto with guilt and sympathy, understanding how much his friends meant to him. They were the family he had never truly had. Naruto had saved him from hatred, and now Kurama wanted to help him. An idea sparked in his mind, one that could help Naruto find his family again. "Kit, I think I have a way to fix this." "No, we can fix this. But you need to hear me out. Maybe we can save everyone and this world from Madara and Kaguya," Kurama said. Hope flickered in Naruto's heart, determination returning to his face. "Really? We can save everyone? What is it, Kurama?" he asked, his voice filled with renewed hope. Kurama smirked with pride. "Time travel. Every bijou needs to learn the jutsu from the old sage. We can only use it once every 100 years, and it will take almost half of your chakra. I will use our chakra so you won't die from chakra loss, but I can't guarantee where we'll end up. Be prepared. Also, with my chakra, you'll take on some of my kitsune traits, so you'll need to hide those features," he explained seriously. Naruto considered Kurama's words carefully. "All right, Kurama, I'll do it," he said with determination. He had nothing to lose if it meant saving his friends. Kurama nodded in agreement, gathering their chakra to perform the jutsu. "Space-time dimension, time travel jutsu," he shouted, and in a flash of bright light, both he and Naruto disappeared. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, was struggling with his paperwork when one of his ANBU, wearing a boar mask, entered his office. "Hokage-sama, we found someone injured near the village front gate. Tiger brought them to the hospital. I wanted to inform you and ask for your orders," the ANBU reported, kneeling before him. "Lead me to them," Hiruzen said, standing up as they made their way to the hospital. Upon arriving, Hiruzen saw two ANBU guarding a room. When they noticed him, they bowed and greeted him. "Hokage-sama." He nodded and opened the door, revealing a blonde-haired man with whisker-like markings lying on the hospital bed, an oxygen mask covering his face. As he looked closer, a sense of familiarity washed over him. The man appeared to be in his 20s and had an attractive appearance, but Hiruzen couldn't shake the feeling that he recognized him. Then it struck him. This man resembled Namake's Minato, the orphan whose mother had died during childbirth. They had never known the identity of his father, only that he had the last name Namake's. Perhaps this man was related to Minato. Hiruzen turned to his ANBU. "I need this man to undergo a BLD test. I want to see if he has any relatives in the village. When he wakes up, report to me immediately." "Understood," he ordered, demonstrating his leadership. The ANBU bowed in acknowledgement and left him with the unconscious man. Naruto groaned as he regained consciousness. The first thing he saw was the white ceiling of a hospital. "Great, the hospital," he thought, frustrated. "You always had a problem with hospitals, Kit," Kurama teased. "Well, I can't help it if the nurses and doctors tried to poison me when I was a kid," Naruto replied, annoyed. Suddenly, he sensed a familiar presence approaching his bed. "Finally, you're awake," a voice said. Naruto turned to see the third Hokage standing beside him, alive and well. Gigi, he thought, trying to mask his sadness at seeing his grandfather figure again. After a moment, he collected himself, ready to face whatever came next. He looked at the elderly Hokage and tried to sit up, but pain shot through his stomach, leaving him feeling sore. A hand pressed gently on his shoulder, urging him back to bed. He glanced at the hand and recognized his grandfather. Gigi. Don't push yourself. You're still recovering, especially your abdomen, said the Hokage, trying to explain his situation. Naruto ignored him and asked, "What year is it?" with a confused expression. "It's the 326th year of the ninja," replied Sarutobi, eyeing him suspiciously. He then asked, "What's your name?" Naruto smiled and introduced himself. "I'm Namake's Naruto," but his expression quickly turned serious. "Hokage-sama, can I have a private audience with you? I have important information to share." "I need all the Enbu out of this room," he said, locking eyes with Sarutobi. Sarutobi was taken aback. He could sense the hidden chakra of the guards. His demeanor shifted to seriousness as he ordered them out and activated a privacy seal to ensure their conversation remained confidential. "Go ahead," Sarutobi said, looking at Naruto expectantly. Taking a deep breath, Naruto introduced himself again. "My name is Uzumaki Namake's Naruto, the Rokudaime Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. I'm the nine-tailed Jinchuriki from the future," he stated with formality and gravity. Sarutobi's skepticism was evident. "What proof do you have that you're from the future?" "Time travel is impossible," he challenged, his seriousness unwavering. Naruto extended his left hand. "Take my hand, and I'll show you my memories." Sarutobi hesitated, suspecting a trap, but chose to trust Naruto and grasped his hand. In an instant, his vision faded to white, and he found himself in the Hokage office, much older than he remembered. He saw a younger Naruto sitting on his lap as he read a storybook to him. The bond was clear, a grandfather-grandson relationship. The scene shifted to Naruto graduating from the academy and being placed in Team Next. He witnessed the Chunin exams, the village under siege by Suna and Oto, led by his former student, Orochimaru. He saw his own death at the hands of Orochimaru, Tsunade becoming the 5th Hokage, Naruto training with Jiraiya, and the Akatsuki's invasion seeking the tailed beasts. The memories continued, showing Naruto growing stronger and earning respect as a leader. Then came the Fourth Great War, a grim landscape filled with loss and devastation. The last image was of Naruto using a time travel jutsu, and suddenly, they were back in the hospital room. Naruto stared out the window at the village, his eyes reflecting sorrow and determination. "Naruto," Hiruzen called with concern. When Naruto turned back, he wore a sad smile. "It's okay, Gigi. I decided to come back to fix everything and save everyone," he declared, hope shining in his voice as his sad smile transformed into a grin. Hiruzen felt a swell of pride for Naruto, proud that despite his difficult past, he remained kind-hearted and forgiving. "Well, Naruto, we need to arrange a cover story for you to live in the village. The council is suspicious about your whereabouts, and I have a great idea. But first," Hiruzen began. Naruto, having seen that familiar expression on his grandfather's face many times, felt a sense of caution. "What are you plotting now, old man?" "I know that face, and it usually means trouble," he said, narrowing his eyes. Hiruzen smirked. "What kind of relationship do you have with Namake's Minato?" he asked. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the mention of his father's name but answered, "He is my father." "But wait, how old is my father in this timeline?" Hiruzen grinned, knowing Naruto was catching on. "He just turned 5 this month." Naruto's eyes narrowed further. "Don't say it, I know what you're planning. You want me to adopt my father and take care of him, right? So the council won't refuse my existence in the village, with me having a son born here," he deduced. Hiruzen's grin widened. "Exactly. With you looking just like him, everyone will think you're father and son. If Minato saw you, he would undoubtedly think the same. His mother died after giving birth, and we don't know where his father is. With your genes, no one will question where you came from." Naruto considered Hiruzen's explanation and decided to agree, but just then, Kurama spoke up in his mind. "Naruto." What is it, Kurama? He replied mentally, while Hiruzen looked at him curiously, noticing his dazed expression as if he were conversing with someone unseen. Naruto saw this and signaled that he was speaking with Kyuubi. Hiruzen was shocked but chose not to interfere, curious about what the Kyuubi was trying to convey. I forgot to tell you that when we merge our chakra, your ability to grow will stop completely, Kurama stated, feeling slightly nervous about revealing this to his host. What do you mean, Kurama? Naruto asked, confusion and fear evident in his voice. I mean, you will stop aging and become immortal. The only way for you to die is if you choose to, Kurama explained. Until then, you will remain young forever. Naruto was taken aback by this revelation and struggled to process it. Hiruzen noticed Naruto's sudden surprise and asked, Naruto, what's wrong? Naruto looked at him and smiled. I accept your offer, Gigi, but, he sighed, a look of resignation on his face as he turned to Hiruzen seriously. I need to tell you something. Naruto then explained what Kurama had told him about immortality and the choice of death. Hiruzen's expression shifted to one of understanding as he absorbed the information. Will you tell Minato about it? Hiruzen asked, curious about Naruto's plans. I will tell him when he's old enough to understand, Naruto replied thoughtfully. Hiruzen nodded in understanding and stood up, deactivating the privacy seal. Well, Naruto, you will be discharged in 2 days, and you can meet your son when you leave the hospital. I will arrange your living situation with him after your release. Welcome to Konoha, Namikaze Naruto, Hiruzen stated formally, extending his hand for Naruto to shake. Thank you, Hokasama, Naruto said, giving a slight bow and accepting the handshake. Hiruzen then left the room with his guards trailing behind. Naruto sighed in defeat, feeling slightly tired. You okay, Naruto? Kurama asked, concerned. I'm all right, Kurama. Thanks for worrying, Naruto replied, grateful for his partner's presence. No problem, Kit, Kurama said before leaving Naruto to his thoughts. Naruto contemplated what he should do moving forward. He knew that the world's destruction began during his sensei's time, meaning he had about 20 years to start his mission. For now, he needed to focus on taking care of his father and watching him grow. But what would he say if Minato noticed that he hadn't changed at all? Should he tell him that Kurama was sealed inside him? He decided it was best to wait until Minato graduated from the academy and understood the shinobi world better. You don't need to tell him if you don't want to, Kit, Kurama interjected, sensing Naruto's thoughts. Then what should I explain if he realizes that I haven't changed at all when he grows up to be the great hero he is? Naruto asked, entering his mindscape where the great nine-tailed fox lay lazily in his den. When he became friends with Kurama, Naruto had changed the scenery in his mindscape to make it more comfortable for him. The appealing forest with a waterfall and a large cave for Kurama reflected his appreciation. Kurama felt touched and grateful for what Naruto had done. They had started to bond when Naruto was 6. Initially, Kurama was angry about being sealed again, but he felt guilty when he saw how the villagers treated Naruto harshly. When they first met, Kurama was shocked that Naruto wasn't afraid of him. He even asked for his name, unlike previous hosts. After that, Kurama took care of Naruto as if he were his own. You know you can use my surname, right? I've told you about the history of the Kitsune clan and their legacy. You've inherited my traits, and you've become one of my own when we merged our chakra. Why not use it as a cover story for your abilities? Kurama suggested. Why didn't I think of that? What would I do without you, Kurama? Naruto teased. Probably be dead right now, Kurama replied, rolling his eyes. Now get out, I want to sleep. Do you know how much chakra I lost traveling? Lazy fox, Naruto said sarcastically, crossing his arms. He then left his mindscape and noticed the sky was getting dark. Deciding to rest, he closed his eyes, welcoming the darkness of sleep. 2 days later, after being discharged from the hospital, Naruto made his way to the Hokage Tower to meet Hiruzen regarding his apartment and to pick up his father from the orphanage. He arrived at the tower and knocked on the office door, waiting for a response. When he heard the invitation to come in from inside the room, he opened the door and saw his grandfather struggling with paperwork. The sight made him feel nostalgic, reminding him of his childhood visits to his Gigi's office, where he would watch him manage his responsibilities. Grateful to see this familiar scene again, he felt a strong longing to protect it. Hiruzen looked up from his work and saw his surrogate grandson entering his office. He dismissed his ANBU guards and activated the privacy seal. "Ah, Naruto. Good timing. I've arranged your living situation with Minato. Everything necessary, like furniture and groceries, is taken care of. Here's the address, along with the address of Minato's orphanage. You can pick him up after this. Also." Hiruzen pulled out his wallet and handed it to Naruto. Naruto accepted it with a smile. "Thanks, Gigi. When I start my mission, I'll pay you back." Hiruzen smiled, knowing that even if he refused, Naruto would still insist on repaying him. Then he remembered something. "Right, I almost forgot to mention that I want to assess your skills and determine what rank you should have. I know you were the Rokudame in your time, but still. Anyway, meet me at Training Ground 36 in 2 days after you settle in and bond with your son. I've informed the council, and they want to see if you deserve your shinobi rank and to live in Konoha," Hiruzen explained. Naruto nodded, understanding, and decided to leave for the day. Before he exited, he turned back to Hiruzen with a smirk. "You know you could just use Kage Bunshin to help with your work, right?" he said, leaving Hiruzen momentarily dumbfounded. After he left, Hiruzen could hear himself muttering about not thinking of such a simple solution. Once outside the Hokage Tower, Naruto decided to go home first and prepare the house where he would be living with his father, who would now be his son. It felt strange to think of his father in that way. "Well, you'll have to get used to it, Kit. He'll call you instead of son," Kurama said in his mind. "You're right, Kurama. Thanks for the advice," Naruto replied, feeling grateful for Kurama's support. He walked to his new apartment, which was a 2-story unit spacious enough for a family. It had 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a toilet. Just as his grandfather had said, the furniture was already arranged, including a couch, bookshelf, television, dining table, fridge, closet, and a king-size bed in the MSTR bedroom. Now, he needed to buy some items for Minato's room, clothes for both of them, bathroom and kitchen supplies, and maybe another bookshelf for his study. After a bit of cleaning and rearranging the furniture for comfort, he planned to go shopping for the things on his list and then pick up Minato. 3 hours later, after cleaning, he decided to pick up his father, who would now be his son, and take him shopping to choose items for his room. On his way to the orphanage, he reflected on how to approach Minato. He was shocked to find that Minato was placed in the same orphanage where he had spent his own childhood. He didn't want to dwell on those painful memories of mistreatment and neglect he had experienced there. Upon arriving at the orphanage, he felt relieved to see that the place was well maintained. It was comforting to know that Minato had not grown up in the same environment he had. He observed children playing happily in the playground under supervision. Then he noticed a blond boy about 5 years old sitting alone on a swing. The boy's hair and eye color reminded him of himself, and he realized this boy was Minato. As he approached the boy, he was stopped by the caretaker, who noticed him. "Can I help you with something, sir?" she asked with a friendly smile. Naruto turned to her and assessed her demeanor. As a shinobi and war veteran, he could easily read people's expressions, and he sensed that her smile was genuine. "Yes, I'm here to pick someone up," he replied, returning her smile. "Ah, then please follow me. We have many children right now. Let me get the book to show you all the children ready for adoption," she said cheerfully. "No, I'm here to pick up a specific boy, my son, Namikaze Minato. I just found out I have a son a couple of days ago, and I'm here to take him home," Naruto explained. "It sounds weird to say he's my son like unnatural things," thought Naruto. "Oh, I see. Let me bring him to you. We've been expecting you but didn't inform Minato-kun yet about you," said the woman while guiding Naruto to where Minato was. Minato's POV: I was sitting on one of the swings at the orphanage playground. Many kids were playing outside with their friends, but I sat there alone because no one wanted to play with me. My caretaker was nice, but people always teased me for my strange hair and deep blue eyes. Because of that, I often got picked on. They would leave mean notes, break my things, and generally bully me. I had gotten into more than one fight over my hair color and always managed to explain it to my caretaker as a training accident or a lucky hit in a spar. I was told that I inherited my hair and eyes from my father, but I didn't know what he looked like. They said my father wasn't from here and that my parents met each other just in passing. So maybe my father didn't know I existed, but I always hoped to reunite with him. I had always dreamed of having a family filled with love and happiness. I had no luck getting adopted, which led to my current situation. When I asked why, the answer was always the same: that hair is unnatural. I didn't understand what was so unnatural about it. It was just my hair. I wanted my father to recognize me when he came to visit Konoha, hoping he would accept me as his son. Then I heard my caretaker calling my name, Minato-kun. I turned to her and noticed another figure standing beside her. The man wore black shinobi breathes with bandages on his ankles and black sandals. He had a dark red sleeveless shirt and a black coat. But what caught my attention the most was his hair and blue eyes. My eyes widened. "Don't tell me," I thought. The caretaker smiled softly at me. I was still stunned and shocked. "Minato-kun, this man's name is Namikaze Naruto. He will be your father from now on," she said gently. Normal POV tears rolled down Minato's cheeks. His father was in front of him. When he heard the man's surname, he knew this man was truly his father. They even looked alike. He watched as the man crouched down and opened his arms wide. He didn't notice the crowd that had begun to gather. He did the first thing he could think of. He ran toward his father, threw his arms around the man's neck, and cried. He felt the man wrap his arms tightly around him, pulling him closer. One hand stroked his hair, trying to comfort him. "Daddy. It's really you, Daddy. Please don't leave me," Minato whispered, tears still rolling down his cheeks. Naruto felt tears in his eyes and hugged his son closer, letting his own tears fall freely. "It's me, Minato. Don't worry, I'm here now. I promise I won't leave you alone again. We'll stick together from now on as family," Naruto whispered back in his son's ear. He could feel the pain Minato had endured. Minato looked up at his father, still tearful. "Promise?" he asked, scared that his father would leave him again. Naruto smiled softly and nodded. "Promise." Minato cried even harder at those words and hugged his father again, burying his face in Naruto's shoulder. Naruto gently patted his back and then stood up with Minato in his arms, who immediately wrapped his legs around Naruto's waist, afraid that if he let go, his father would disappear again. Naruto smiled, wiped the tears from Minato's face, and turned to look at the caretaker. She smiled and nodded, then went back inside, with Naruto following her while carrying his son. "Minato-kun, now you can pack your things so you can go home with your father," said the caretaker after Minato had finished crying but was still in Naruto's arms. Minato nodded, and Naruto set him down so he could go to his room to pack. After a moment, Minato returned with his belongings and a backpack. Naruto noticed Minato carried only a few things. "That's all you have?" he asked. Minato nodded, feeling ashamed. Naruto chuckled and ruffled his hair. "Don't worry, we can go shopping after this, and you can pick out what you want for your room." Minato tilted his head in confusion but nodded. Naruto held out his left hand for Minato to take, and he did. Naruto looked back at the caretaker. "Oh, do I have to fill out any paperwork or something?" he asked her. "No, Hokage-sama already took care of that. He's free to go, you can take him," she said sweetly. Naruto nodded. "All right, I'll be leaving then," he said, taking Minato's hand as they left. TBC chapter. And Naruto decided to go shopping the next day because he felt tired, both physically and mentally. He also thought that Minato must be tired after how much he cried earlier. He looked at Minato walking beside him, hand in hand. They continued walking until they arrived at their apartment, where they would live together for now. He took out his keys and opened the door, stepping inside. He noticed Minato still standing outside. "What's wrong?" Minato asked Naruto. Minato hesitated. Well, do I come in or?" he said, looking at his father. "You come in, of course. This is your home now," Naruto said, smiling. Minato walked in and took his shoes off at the door. "Where do I put my stuff?" he asked, standing where he had left his shoes. "Come with me, I'll show you around," Naruto replied. "Okay," Minato said, following his father. "Here's the kitchen, it's always full. If you're hungry, I bought lots of food, whatever you want." Naruto gestured around. "Here's the bathroom, there are towels on the toilet and shampoo," conditioner, and body wash in the shower already. And here's the bedroom. You can put your things in that closet with my stuff. There's no bed in the other room, so you'll have to sleep with me. I'll get you a bed tomorrow. Naruto smiled at Minato. So, what did you bring with you anyway? Naruto asked, looking at Minato. Minato had only a small backpack. We're going to have to go shopping for clothes, thought Naruto. My clothes and toothbrush, Minato replied. We're going shopping tomorrow, so we can pick some things up for you anyway, Naruto said. Come on, let's go eat. I know you're hungry. All right, Minato said. He followed Naruto into the kitchen and sat down at the table. So what do you want to eat? Naruto asked while he started preparing the ingredients. I don't know, I haven't eaten a lot of different food before, Minato admitted, blushing slightly. Okay, I'll surprise you, Naruto said with a smirk. He began cooking, humming a lullaby he had picked up in his travels. He stirred the vegetables in the frying pan, showcasing his exceptional cooking skills. Sometimes he took lessons from Ichiraku's owner, but he often favored ramen over anything else. It was the only dish he struggled with, especially since he could never cut the noodles right. They always ended up bloated and soggy, no matter what instructions he followed. Picking up a plate of uncooked meat, Naruto added it to the mix, letting the red flesh sizzle in the oil. He covered it with a lid and let it simmer while he checked the cabinets. They were stocked with sugar, salt, soy sauce, vanilla extract, baking soda, and every base ingredient possible. The refrigerator was full of food, and Naruto felt he could make anything he wanted. His eyes caught sight of the oven, and a sudden idea came to him. He had never really used an oven before because he was afraid it might explode, given his past experiences. Spending his life in the clutches of those who wanted him gone made him a bit paranoid. Plus, he couldn't afford oven mitts. Burns, no matter how quickly they healed, still hurt. Oh, this is going to be fun, Naruto thought, grinning as he proceeded with his plan to cook to his heart's content. Minato watched his father cook intently, unable to take his eyes off him. The aroma of sweet sake and meat filled the air, making him drool. About an hour later, Naruto returned with the food, placing it down on the table. There, on the dining table, was a remarkable feast. Onigiri perfectly molded into a spherical yet triangular shape with fresh seaweed. Sushi with crab roe, cucumber, and scrambled eggs were neatly arranged on decorated plates. Takoyaki and tamagoyaki were steaming hot, accompanied by a bowl of miso soup and a few sticks of dango and fried dumplings. It was a full-blown feast. I think I went overboard. It's been so long since I could cook like this, Naruto said, feeling slightly embarrassed as he took his seat in front of Minato. Minato looked at the food in awe and smiled at his father. It's okay, I can eat it all. Really? Don't force yourself, okay? Naruto replied, and Minato nodded. They then started to eat. Itadakimasu, they said in unison. Minato took a bite of curry, and his eyes sparkled. It's delicious, he exclaimed, making Naruto chuckle at his son's enthusiasm. Minato's face turned red with embarrassment at his father's laughter. After they finished their meal, Minato looked at his father cleaning the table and decided to help. Do you need help, Daddy? He asked, moving to his father's side to wash dishes. No, it's fine. You can take a bath and rest. You must be tired. You can go to bed first. If you want, I can tell you some stories, Naruto said, ruffling his son's hair gently. Minato felt the love in his father's gentle touch and tried hard not to cry. He had always dreamed of having a father who cared for him so much. Minato smiled and nodded, heading to their bedroom. Naruto watched his son walk upstairs and smiled. Looks like someone is showing parental potential, teased Kurama. Naruto rolled his eyes and continued cleaning the kitchen. After he finished, he washed up and walked to his room. He saw Minato waiting for him on the bed and smiled as he joined him. So, what stories do you want to hear? Naruto asked, wrapping a blanket around both of them. Can you tell me about yourself, Daddy? Minato asked hesitantly, afraid that his father might not want to share. But he felt his back being patted and looked up at his father, who gave him a soft and gentle smile. Let's see, I was a traveler, visiting many places and seeing so many things in this world. Why am I traveling? You could say that I don't have a place I can call home. I was born in a small village near the Fire Nation, the village of our clan, the Namikaze clan village. But the village was destroyed after the Second Shinobi War, and I was the only one left. It happened when I was 10 years old, and I lost both of my parents that day. They died protecting me from the enemies. I felt helpless at that time, and because of me, my parents died. From then on, I was determined to become strong and decided to travel around the world to learn and train myself to become stronger, so I could protect my family and everyone precious to me, Naruto said, sharing his story with his son, who listened intently. This was the moment Minato got to know more about his father. He admired his father's ambition and decided to follow in his footsteps. Naruto continued his story about how he came to be in Konoha, explaining the cover stories he and Hiruzen had created to ensure no one became suspicious of his whereabouts. He told Minato that he had been attacked by enemies and had gotten badly injured. The next thing he knew, he awoke in the hospital. The Hokage informed him that he had a son, and that son was Minato. So starting today, he would be a resident of Konoha, and the Hokage decided to register him in the Konoha Shinobi ranks due to his skills developed during his travels. Minato felt guilty, realizing that because of him, his father couldn't continue his travels. Then he felt his head being patted and looked at his father, who smiled softly. "It's okay. I think this is my opportunity to settle down, and you are the reason I can do that. Finally having someone to protect is important. I've traveled for so many years, but I was always alone. With you here, maybe I can have a place I can call home. A place where someone greets me when I come back, and where I can welcome them home to a warm and lively house. I'm really grateful to finally have you as my son, my only family. So, Minato, don't abandon your family or anyone precious to you. Abandoning family, friends, and comrades is truly wrong. Please keep this in your heart, and when you understand enough, look beneath the surface," Naruto advised. Minato listened to his father with great diligence, keeping his father's words close to his. Soon he felt his eyes getting heavy. Noticing this, Naruto continued to pat his back. "Sleep. We'll continue the stories another day." "Good night, Minato," he said, kissing his son's forehead. Minato smiled at the kiss and yawned, feeling sleepier. "Good night, Daddy." "I love you," he replied, drifting off to sleep with a smile on his face after hearing his father's response. "I love you too, son." The next morning, Minato woke up and looked around at the unfamiliar room. He remembered that his father had taken him home the day before and that he had listened to his father's story and advice, which he would keep in his heart forever. His father, the one he had longed for, was kind and caring, and he knew his father was strong and cool. Because of this, Minato decided he wanted to become like his father and follow in his footsteps, always keeping his father's words close. Minato got off the bed and walked downstairs, drawn by the aroma of eggs and bacon from the kitchen. After trying his father's cooking for the first time, he had started to love it and wanted to taste it more. When he arrived in the kitchen, he saw his father preparing their breakfast. "Good morning, son. Take a seat. The food will be ready in a minute," Naruto greeted as he noticed Minato approaching. Minato followed the order and sat at the dining table. Naruto placed a plate of eggs and bacon in front of him and sat across from him. "Itadakimasu," they both said, enjoying their breakfast in comfortable silence. After they finished, Minato decided to ask, "What do you want to do today, Dad?" Naruto looked at his son, resting his chin on his hand as he thought. "Well, today we'll go shopping for clothes and your things for your bedroom. How about that?" he suggested, looking for Minato's reaction. "All right." Minato replied happily, excited to spend time with his father. Naruto smiled and said, "Then go get ready. We'll head out in 20 minutes. Minato nodded and went to the bathroom to wash up and get ready. After about 20 minutes, both blondes were ready. "Ready?" Naruto asked, looking at his son, who stood by his side. Minato nodded eagerly, and they left the house, walking to the shopping district with Naruto holding Minato's hand to ensure they wouldn't get separated in the crowded street. As Minato and his father walked through the streets, many people glanced their way, particularly admiring the older blonde. Minato couldn't help but notice the attention his father received, Naruto was undeniably attractive, with sunny blonde hair, sharp blue eyes, and distinctive whisker marks on his cheeks. Minato often thought he would grow up to look just like him. Minus the whisker marks, of course. He was curious about how his father got them but hesitated to ask, feeling it might intrude on Naruto's privacy. "Hey, Dad." Minato called, and Naruto turned to him, signaling he was listening. "Yes, Minato." Naruto replied. "Are you a ninja?" Minato asked, tilting his head in curiosity. Naruto fought back a smile at his son's cuteness and decided to answer. "You could say I am one, but I don't work for any village. I'm more of a traveling ninja," he explained. Minato's eyes widened in awe. "Do you know awesome jutsu? Can I see it? Can you teach me? Can I become a ninja like you too?" he asked excitedly, bombarding his father with questions. "Whoa, easy there, buddy. I can't answer everything if you keep firing questions at me," Naruto chuckled, watching Minato blush in embarrassment. "Well, to answer your earlier question, yes, I do know an awesome jutsu. You can see it the day after tomorrow, and I'll teach you when you start the academy at 7, if you want to," Naruto said with a smile. "Really?" Minato asked, his excitement palpable. "Really?" Naruto confirmed, beaming at his son. They soon arrived at a store selling both casual and shinobi clothing. As they entered, the waitress greeted them with a warm smile. "Welcome. What can I do for you, sir?" she asked. Naruto returned her smile, causing her to blush. "We're here to buy some shinobi clothes and casual clothes for my son," he said, gesturing to Minato. The waitress felt a twinge of disappointment upon realizing the young man was already married with a child, but she led them to the clothing section. Naruto picked out a couple of pairs of casual clothes and shinobi attire for both himself and Minato, while Minato chose his own outfits. After paying, Naruto created 2 clones to take their bags home while he and Minato headed to a furniture store for Minato's room. "Pick out something you'd like for your room," Naruto encouraged. Minato nodded and began to explore. Once he found what he wanted, he called his father, who purchased the items Minato pointed out. After sealing the furniture in his scroll, Naruto suggested, "How about we grab some lunch? It's already lunchtime." Minato agreed, and they made their way to a ramen stand, enjoying their time together and strengthening their bond as father and son. 2 months later, Naruto had returned to the past to fix everything and become the father of his own father. During this time, he had gained recognition as the first Sanin and was affectionately called the Fox Sanin. When he demonstrated his skills in front of his grandfather, the council, and Minato, he showcased a power level that left everyone in awe. His collaboration with foxes to defeat opponents earned him the title of Fox Sanin, and he was appointed as the head of the Namikaze clan. His reputation spread quickly, and villagers showed him respect whenever he walked with Minato. Today, he had a month off from his S-rank missions and wanted to spend quality time with his son, feeling that he hadn't been present enough as a father. Despite his busy schedule, Minato always welcomed him home with a bright smile, which filled Naruto with happiness and relief. After a particularly exhausting 3-day mission, Naruto arrived home and announced, "I'm home." He was greeted by the sound of footsteps, revealing Minato running toward him with a joyful smile on his face. "Daddy!" Minato shouted happily as he jumped into his father's arms, catching Naruto by surprise. The two stumbled to the floor from the impact. "Ow!" they both exclaimed, and then burst into laughter at the mishap. Minato smiled brightly at his father. "Welcome home, Daddy," he greeted warmly. Naruto returned the smile fondly. "Yeah, I'm home, Minato." 3 years later, Naruto had traveled back to the past and become Minato's father. During those years, he spent time with Minato, teaching and training him whenever he had time off from missions. Minato was always delighted when his father taught him about being a shinobi, covering skills like fuinjutsu, senjutsu, ninjutsu, kenjutsu, taijutsu, and genjutsu. Naruto explained each skill and how every shinobi had their own specialties. When Minato asked about his father's specialty, he learned that Naruto excelled in everything except genjutsu. When Minato inquired why, Naruto explained that he had special chakra that prevented him from creating genjutsu, though he could dispel it. Minato was confused but accepted that his father would explain more when he graduated from the academy. Naruto taught Minato about chakra and the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, wind, and lightning. He also shared a bit of the history of each shinobi nation and what it meant to be a shinobi. Minato learned that being a shinobi wasn't just about being a hero or using cool jutsu, it was about protecting something precious. His father emphasized the difference between wanting to protect and needing to protect, and that power must be earned, not given. Teamwork was also crucial. As the years passed, Minato turned 8, and Naruto decided to enroll him in the Shinobi Academy. Minato was thrilled at the prospect of becoming a real shinobi like his father and hoped to make friends. Minato, hey buddy, if you don't wake up soon, you're going to be late for your first day of school. Naruto called from downstairs while preparing breakfast. He also made a lunchbox for Minato. I'm coming. Minato shouted back from his room, hurrying down to the kitchen. They enjoyed breakfast together, and afterward, Naruto walked Minato to school, holding his hand. Minato felt the stares from the villagers and grew a bit nervous. Sensing this, Naruto squeezed his hand reassuringly. Minato looked up at his father, who winked and smiled back. As they walked, Minato noticed a man with his son on his shoulders. Understanding the hint, Naruto lifted Minato onto his shoulders, making him laugh and momentarily forget his worries. The villagers smiled at the sight of the happy family. When they arrived at the academy, Naruto set Minato down and crouched to his level, placing a hand on his head. All right, buddy, remember to be nice, make friends, don't show off too much, and work well with everyone. Remember what I said about teamwork? It could benefit you in the future. Be a good boy and do your best. See you later, son, Naruto advised. Okay, Dad, see you later, Minato replied with a big smile. Naruto smiled warmly and ruffled Minato's hair. Well then, go on before the bell rings, he said. Minato nodded and ran inside, waving back at his father. Naruto waved until he could no longer see Minato. As Minato entered his classroom, he felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Everyone turned to look at him, and the room fell silent. He stood there for a moment, hand on the doorknob, before slowly closing the door behind him and walking purposefully to an empty seat in the long rows that could fit 12 but were only allowed 3. He sat down, and everyone continued to stare. Are you all going to stop staring at me or not? You all look like creepers, Minato said, breaking the silence. But instead of responding, they began whispering about him behind his back. Minato decided to use this time to meditate, crossing his legs on the bench, closing his eyes, and listening to the rumors circulating about him. That's the orphan we used to pick on. Why is he here? He can't be a shinobi. One voice said. Another chimed in, what's up with his hair? Is he trying to be like our clan? Hey, don't say that about him. He's actually kind of cute. Someone defended. I personally like his hair, it's the color of sunshine. And did you see his eyes? They were like the sky. Minato thought, well, the fan club forms. But there are some people who might try to beat me up again. It's a good thing I was trained by my dad and his Fox Sanin. Dad's training is hard, but it's worth it because he is strong, and he trained me to become strong too. Just then, the teacher walked in, starting the class. 1 year had passed since Minato entered the academy, and during that time, he made some friends. His friends included Nara Shika, Yamanaka Inoichi, Akimichi Choza, Inazuka Tsum, Uchiha Mikoto, Hyuga Hina, Hyuga Hizashi, Uzumaki Kazami, and Uzumaki Kushina, who transferred 5 months ago. Minato and Kushina weren't very close. On her first day, she was picked on by the same kids who used to tease Minato. They stopped bothering Minato when they realized his strength, but when Kushina arrived, they made fun of her as Minato's replacement. When they called her hair tomato, she fought back fiercely. Minato wanted to help her, but she rejected him, telling him to mind his own business. So, they weren't really friends. Minato was on his way home alone because his father had an important meeting with the Hokage and couldn't pick him up as usual. As a good son, Minato understood his father's busy schedule, but he admired how his father always made time for him, no matter how tired he was. Minato aspired to be like him one day. After returning from the academy, Minato decided to train before dinner. His father didn't mind if he came home late as long as he kept his curfew. He headed to Training Ground 28, a secluded spot near the forest that was rarely used. Arriving at his destination, he began to work on his chakra control, aiming to use jutsu without hand signs like his father. His father had taught him that patience was essential for a shinobi, as it helped one grow stronger. While focusing on his training, Minato heard growling and yipping from the bushes on his left. Cautiously, he approached the sound with the kunai his father had given him for his 6th birthday. As he neared the bushes, he didn't see anything, so he ventured deeper into the forest, hoping not to get lost and that whatever was making the noise wasn't dangerous. The sounds grew closer. What he discovered shocked him. 2 large dogs as big as wolves were attacking a two-tailed fox kit. The baby fox was severely injured, hiding in a hole in a tree while the dogs barked and crawled, trying to reach it. Having cared for foxes since he was 5, Minato felt a strong urge to protect them. He took out his shuriken and threw it at the dogs, causing them to flee in fright. Once the dogs were gone, Minato hurried to where the baby fox was hiding. "Hey little guy, it's okay. They're gone now, you can come out," he said, trying to coax the fox. The baby fox looked at him, still scared, but cautiously sniffed Minato's outstretched hand. The scent of safety calmed the fox, and it slowly emerged from its hiding spot. Minato carefully picked up the baby fox, cradling it in his arms. Noticing that the fox was male and injured, with a deep claw mark on its right side, he smiled and began walking home, determined to help his new friend. He hurried home to treat the wound, not expecting to find his father already there. "Welcome home, Minato," Naruto greeted when he saw his son. He noticed Minato was covered in dirt and blood, breathing as if he had just run a marathon. Frowning, Naruto looked at what Minato was carrying. "I need help. The fox is hurt." Minato gasped, panic evident on his face as he looked up at his father. All right. You need to calm down. Let me take a look at him, and you get some first aid so we can treat his wound," Naruto said, trying to soothe Minato as he took the injured fox from his arms. Minato nodded and hurried off to find what his father asked for. Naruto examined the fox's wound and saw it was deep. He quickly used his healing jutsu, learned from his godmother, to mend the injury. As he worked, he noticed something unusual about the fox cub. It had 2 tails and chakra within it. This indicated that the animal could be a summon or a nin-ken, similar to the Inuzuka dogs. "Hey, Kurama, what do you think about this kit?" Naruto called to his partner, the 9-tailed fox. "Well, he's probably one of my descendants, a fox nin-ken from the Kitsune clan," Kurama replied. "I thought so. I can keep him, but I can't have him become my nin-ken. I already have you as my partner and the summon," Naruto said as he finished healing the deep wound. Minato returned with the first aid supplies, and they began to bandage the smaller wounds together. "Well, just give him to Minato since he's the one who found this kit. But it's useless because he can't understand fox language. He's not from the Kitsune clan or merged with my power like you are. Unless you want to use that jutsu to make him part of us," Kurama said lazily, his tone hinting at disapproval of the idea. "Well, we don't have another choice, even if you don't like it, Kurama. It's also to cover up our cover story," Naruto replied, finishing the bandaging. "Alright, he'll be okay now. Just let him rest and give him some food, and he'll be good for another 2 weeks," Naruto said, ruffling Minato's hair. Minato sighed in relief upon hearing that the fox he saved was okay. Naruto chuckled, and Minato looked at him curiously. "So, do you want to explain to me how you found this fox?" "Injured, mostly," Naruto asked. Minato recounted what he had been doing before he met the fox and what had happened. Naruto listened, nodding in understanding. "I see. That's how it is," he said, glancing at the unconscious fox cub. "Dad." Minato called and Naruto turned to him. "What should we do about him?" Minato asked, hoping his father would let him keep the fox as a companion. Naruto pondered the question. "Well, he's a fox nin-ken but still too young and weak to protect himself. So, I think we should keep him, so he has a safe place to live. If you don't mind taking care of him," Naruto said with a smile, ruffling Minato's hair again. Minato's face lit up at the suggestion and he nodded. Then he remembered what his father had told him about the fox. Ninken. This fox is a ninken? He asked, curious. Naruto smiled and nodded. Minato gazed at the fox intensely, wanting it to become his partner like his father's partner, Kurama. Seeing the determination in Minato's eyes, Naruto smiled quietly. Do you want him to be your ninken? Naruto asked. Minato looked up at his father in wonder but nodded. Naruto smiled back, continuing to ruffle Minato's hair, causing him to grumble and pout. You can have him too, but only if he agrees to be your partner. We can't force him to do anything. Partners have to understand each other, Naruto advised warmly. Minato nodded, hoping the fox would want to be his partner. Later that night, someone sneaked into Minato's room while he was sleeping. The man looked at the sleeping boy with guilt, then touched Minato's forehead and performed some hand signs. A bright light enveloped Minato's body, and once it faded, the man slipped out of the room before Minato awoke. The next morning, Minato awoke drowsily, rubbing his eyes as he walked downstairs to find his father preparing breakfast. Good morning, Dad, he said. Naruto, hearing his son's voice, turned to respond but was cut off, stunned by how different Minato looked. Minato tilted his head in confusion at his father's reaction. When he caught a glimpse of his reflection in the living room mirror, he was shocked. His reflection showed that he had grown fox ears and a tail, both the same color as his hair. His ears twitched, his tail wagged, and he noticed his canine teeth were sharper than before. His eyes had changed too, with pupils that split sharply, resembling those of an animal. Minato stared at his reflection in the mirror, panic rising within him. What's happened to me? He stuttered, looking at his father in shock. Outside, Naruto felt a mix of surprise and guilt. He was the one who had altered Minato's DNA the night before, making him a descendant of the Kitsune clan. Seeing Minato's distress, Naruto approached his son and gently stroked his head, trying to calm him. It worked. Minato felt the warmth of his father's hand, and as Naruto shifted to slide his ears, Minato couldn't help but purr at the comforting touch. He heard his father chuckling softly, which snapped him out of his daze. Embarrassment flushed his cheeks as he realized how much he enjoyed the affection. Finally calmed down, Naruto asked, a smile on his face. Minato looked up, nodding, still blushing. Well, first of all, congratulations, Minato. You've awakened your bloodline. Minato's eyes widened in shock and confusion. He had no idea his clan possessed a bloodline, as Naruto had never mentioned it before. Sensing his son's bewilderment, Naruto decided to share their family's history. You want to know how, right? Minato nodded eagerly. You see, while I'm from the Namikaze clan, I'm also part of the Kitsune clan. My mother, or your grandmother, was from the Namikaze clan, known for manipulating wind and space. The name Namikaze means waves and wind. It's similar to other clans like the Uchiha and Hyuga, who have their unique abilities. The golden blonde hair is a signature trait of the Namikaze clan, just as crimson red hair is for the Uzumaki clan. There's also a special ability we have called Storm Release, which combines wind and water-based chakra to create energy beams or manipulate clouds. Only a few members of the Namikaze clan can use this Kekkei Genkai, making it truly remarkable. Minato listened in awe, feeling proud to be part of such a lineage but also curious about his father's other clan. So, what's the story of the Kitsune clan? He asked. First, how much do you know about the Kyuubi? Naruto inquired. Minato raised an eyebrow, confused. The Kyuubi is the nine-tailed fox Bijou, right? The demon that destroyed villages years ago, but the first Hokage sealed it away. Naruto nodded. Do you know why the Kyuubi acted that way? Minato tilted his head. I thought it was just for fun. Naruto frowned, sensing Kurama's frustration in his mind. Actually, he was controlled by Uchiha Madara. The Kyuubi is a kind being who has helped humans in need. He even raised a lost child as his own. His kindness led to the formation of the Kitsune clan, blessed by him and serving as its guardian. Members of the Kitsune clan are born with fox ears and tails, and they possess enhanced senses and the ability to turn into foxes. However, the clan faced tragedy when the Kyuubi, under Madara's control, massacred them. Your grandfather was the last member to escape. He told me stories when I was young, and because of our connection to the Kyuubi, we can feel his emotions. Minato felt a wave of sympathy for the Kyuubi, their clan's guardian. So that means I'm part of the Kitsune clan too. But I don't see any ears or tails on you, Dad, he said, looking closely at Naruto. Chuckling, Naruto revealed his fox ears and 8 tails, showcasing the traits of his clan. Minato gasped when he saw the true form of his father, even more shocked to see that his father had 8 tails. You have 8 tails. Minato shouted in awe. Naruto laughed at his son's reaction, and Minato's face turned red with embarrassment. Naruto patted Minato's head to calm him. Then he looked at the clock. Well, it looks like you missed school. How about I teach you how to hide your fox traits? We can't let anyone know our clan still stands, even if it's just the 2 of us. Come, let's have breakfast, and then we'll start our training. Minato nodded, and the 2 ate their breakfast, even though the food was already cold. They spent the day together, with Naruto teaching Minato how to conceal his fox traits. After a day of practice, Minato managed to hold his transformation for about 2 hours. His father suggested using a hinge to keep his fox traits hidden. Minato found it a bit troublesome but complied. He didn't want to trouble his father or make him worry more than he already had. Then he remembered the baby fox he had saved a few days ago. The fox was panicked at first, but when it caught a whiff of Naruto, it relaxed. Minato was shocked when he heard the little fox speak. Are you the one who saved me? It asked. Naruto smiled at the fox and said, No, my son saved you. How about you thank him? The fox turned to Minato, looking a little hesitant. But when it sniffed him, it relaxed and wagged its 2 tails. Thank you for helping me back there, the fox said happily. Minato blinked in surprise, realizing that what his father had told him about their ability to understand fox language was true. No problem, I'm happy to help, Minato replied, reaching out to pat the fox. The fox flinched at first but then relaxed as Minato gently stroked its fur. I'm Namake's Kitsune Minato, and that's my father, Naruto. What's your name? He introduced himself, deciding to add his grandfather's clan name since it was just him, his father, and the fox that would be his future partner. I'm Shirou. You said you're from the Kitsune clan, right? I thought only my mom and I were left after Kyuubi-sama rampaged a few years ago. This revelation shocked both Minato and Naruto. Your mom? Shirou nodded sadly. I lost my mom when I was young. She protected me from a beast in the forest and used herself as bait to let me escape. That was the last day I saw her. After that, I wandered the forest, finding food to survive alone. Before she died, she always told me stories about the Kitsune clan. Minato listened to Shirou's story, feeling guilty for making him remember sad memories. He couldn't say he understood the pain of losing someone precious, as he had lost his mother during childbirth and didn't even know what she looked like. But he could relate to the feeling of being alone, as he had experienced that before his father came into his life. He was grateful to whoever had sent his father to him, as he no longer had to feel alone. When Naruto listened to Shirou's story, he and Kurama had been talking. It looks like your clan isn't extinct after all, Kurama, Naruto teased, hearing Kurama snort in annoyance before going back to sleep. Not receiving an answer, Naruto chuckled mentally. He looked at Minato, who appeared sad hearing Shirou's story, and smiled softly, ruffling his hair gently to get his attention. Minato looked up and saw his father's smile, recognizing the shared emotion in his eyes. Naruto then crouched down to Shirou's level and patted his white fur to comfort him. It's okay, from now on, you can stay with us. If you want, we can train you so you can protect yourself, he offered. Shirou's eyes lit up with excitement. Really? Thank you, thank you, thank you, he exclaimed, jumping into Naruto's arms, making Naruto squeak in surprise. They both laughed, and Minato joined in, leaving Shirou confused about why they were laughing. After a couple of minutes, the father and son calmed down, and Naruto checked the clock, realizing it was time for dinner. All right, you'll share a room with my son. Minato, can you show him the room and prepare a bed for Shirou? I'll need to prepare dinner. Minato nodded and walked to his room, gesturing for Shirou to follow him. Before he left, Minato saw his father send him a message wishing him good luck. He felt confused at first but then understood. Later, in his room, while preparing the bed for Shirou to sleep, Minato glanced at him and decided to ask a question. Sure. Can I ask you something? He said. Shirou nodded, curious about what his new roommate would ask. If you know about the Kitsune clan, then you must know about partners, right? Shirou nodded again, looking more confused than before. Well, do you want to be my partner? Minato asked hopefully. Shirou was stunned and unsure how to respond. Are you sure you want me as your partner? Because I'm weak. I can't even protect myself, let alone my mom, he said, doubting his ability to be a good partner for Minato. Minato gave him an encouraging smile. No, it's okay. I don't mind because I'm also learning. We can train together to become stronger, and together we can protect our family and everyone precious to us. I want to continue our clan's legacy with my dad, and for that, I need you as my partner to support me. How about it? Minato said, determined to achieve his dream. Shirou was speechless, feeling odd that someone needed him, that someone wanted him as part of their life. He felt touched and grateful for the chance to be part of this family. Looking at Minato, who was waiting for his answer, he smiled brightly. I would love to be your partner, he said happily, seeing Minato's face light up with joy. Minato then held out his hand. Then please take good care of me from now on, and welcome to the family, he said with a cheerful grin. Shirou grinned back and accepted Minato's hand. Thank you, and please take care of me too, partner. They shook hands as a symbol of their partnership. Minato, Shirou. Dinner's ready. They heard Naruto call from downstairs. The two walked out of their shared room to the dining room where Naruto was waiting for them. When they arrived, Shirou saw a dark red fox with 9 tails curled up on a chair. He turned to Minato for an explanation. Ah, that's Kurama. My dad's partner, Minato said. Shirou nodded, feeling slightly worried about the older-looking fox. He could sense Kurama's powerful chakra. Kurama looked up when he sensed their presence, stretched his body with a big yawn, and said, Yo Minato, you look good. But be careful when you go outside. We don't want anyone to know our clan is still standing, even if it's just the 4 of us. Minato nodded, understanding the risks involved. Kurama then turned to Shirou. And for you, welcome to the family. Tomorrow we will start your training, and I will be the one to train you. Shirou nodded, feeling a bubble of excitement inside. He couldn't wait for tomorrow. Just then, Naruto came from the kitchen with food and set it on the table. Now Kurama, it's not the time to lecture the kids. Minato just got his fox traits and still needs more training. If you hadn't spent so much time sleeping instead of helping him improve, maybe he could hide it completely by now, Naruto said, turning the tables on Kurama. Kurama huffed in annoyance, pouting. Naruto sighed, then looked at the kids and gestured for them to take their seats. Minato sat down as usual, and Shirou took a spot beside him on the floor. Naruto served Minato a bowl of ramen and gave Shirou a plate of roasted chicken, encouraging them to eat. He then turned to Kurama, who was still pouting. Come on, let's eat. I made your favorite chicken today, Naruto said, placing a plate of grilled chicken in front of Kurama. Kurama's face lit up at the sight of his favorite food, and he began to dig in. Naruto shook his head at his partner's behavior and joined them for dinner. They ate in comfortable silence until Naruto broke it. So, how did it go? He asked, looking directly at Minato. Minato grinned and nodded happily. Shirou and I will be partners from now on and will get strong together, he declared, and Shirou nodded in agreement, sporting his own foxy grin. Naruto smiled at the two, feeling happy for them. About a month later, Minato and Shirou had grown closer. Minato often brought Shirou with him to the academy, and they spent their time training or hanging out together. During that month, Minato managed to control his fox traits perfectly, ensuring they didn't slip. Thanks to his father's training, he had even transformed into a fox kit. His fox features resembled Naruto's with golden fur and slit blue eyes, but the number of tails was different. While Naruto had 8 tails on his back with red tips, Minato had just 1 tail with white tips. Naruto explained that his tail would increase as he grew stronger, but with each increase in power, it would become harder to control his animal instincts and hide his fox features. Minato kept this advice in mind, recalling that their family had fox traits in their BLD, which included experiencing a mating season and the need to find a mate. He asked Naruto if he had found someone special, but his father only gave him a sad smile. Minato sensed that Naruto had met someone, but the relationship seemed troubled. Kurama, Naruto's partner, explained that Naruto's mate had died in battle while Genin, and despite Naruto's efforts to save them, it was too late. Minato felt a wave of sadness and regret for bringing it up, realizing that if his father's mate and unborn child had survived, he would have had a mother and siblings. Nonetheless, he was grateful for his father, who had been a loving role model, acting as both a caring parent and a supportive brother. 2 months later, after helping Minato train his bloodline and skills, Naruto decided to return to his duties as a shinobi and continue his personal mission. As a Sanin, he held a higher rank and was only directed by the Hokage, allowing him the freedom to choose his missions. His first priority was to prevent the destruction of Uzushiogakure, ensuring the Uzumaki clan wouldn't become extinct again and that Kushina wouldn't lose her family. He also became the next Jinchuriki of Kurama, relieving Kushina of that burden. Naruto traveled throughout the elemental nations, absorbing every Biju to protect them from mistreatment, allowing them the freedom to roam while ensuring they stayed close to him for their safety. Minato was unaware of this, believing the Biju only played in the Forest of Death. Naruto's next mission was to locate Madara and Zetsu to put an end to their threat once and for all. Minato's perspective shifted as he reflected on the 3 days since his father had left for a mission, leaving him and Shirou in the care of Hino, the six-tailed fox. Whenever Naruto was away, Minato trained at the training ground near their home. Since his father had earned the title of Sanin and become the head of the Namikaze clan, the Hokage and council had provided land to build a compound befitting his father's rank, deepening Minato's admiration for him. Today, he was on his way to his usual training ground with Shirou perched on his shoulder, ready to continue their training after school. However, an unsettling feeling crept over them as they approached the training ground, making them tense and cautious. "Hey Minato, I think we should skip training today. The atmosphere feels off, and I can sense danger." "Let's head home," Shirou suggested, and Minato nodded in agreement. As they reached the training ground, the tension grew, and they decided to return to the village. Suddenly, a scent pricked their fox noses from the forest nearby. Despite knowing the risks, curiosity got the better of them, and they cautiously followed the scent. Minato soon spotted a strand of red hair on the ground and recognized it as Kushina's. Picking it up, he noted that it still carried her scent, meaning it was fresh. "Minato, look." Shirou pointed, and Minato followed the direction to see the hair arranged in a line, suggesting that Kushina had left it intentionally. He also detected a foreign scent mixed with hers. Kushina had been kidnapped, and Minato needed to rescue her before it was too late. 3 Kumo ninjas were circling their hostage, ensuring she couldn't escape. As the sun set, Kushina felt her strength fading and hope for rescue dwindled. "Oi brat. Keep walking, we don't have time to rest," one of the Kumo nin said, pulling the rope binding her wrists tightly. Kushina had no energy left to resist, her head hung low, and she didn't notice when her captors collapsed. Suddenly, a strong wind forced her to close her eyes. When she opened them, she found herself in the arms of someone. At first, she saw the golden light of the moon, but as her vision cleared, she realized it was someone's hair. "Are you all right, Kushina?" A voice broke through her thoughts. She looked up to meet sapphire eyes, her classmate, Namikaze Minato. "Kushina?" Minato asked again, pulling her from her daze. Weiss, I'm all right," she stuttered, feeling embarrassed. Minato sighed in relief and offered her a reassuring smile. "Thank goodness you're okay. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't arrived in time." Kushina looked at him shyly, suddenly aware that Minato was holding her in a bridal carry, which made her cheeks flush. She glanced down and realized they were perched atop a tree. A familiar sound caught her attention. A white fox, always by Minato's side, was yipping below. "Ah, Shirou. Did you send the message to Hokage-sama as I asked?" Minato's expression turned serious. The fox nodded and yipped again, as if answering him. How long until they arrive? Minato asked, looking at his partner. The reinforcements will arrive in 5 minutes. How much longer will your dad's paralysis seal hold them? Minato thought for a moment. I think about 3 hours, as Dad instructed. It's a good thing I brought it with me for training. If not, I don't know what would have happened. Shirou nodded in agreement. You took them down about 30 minutes ago, right? So we have time until the reinforcements come. After that, what do you want to do? Minato tilted his head in confusion. What do you mean? He asked. The lady. What do you want to do with her? Send her home or bring her to Hokage-sama? Minato glanced at Kushina, who was watching them with confusion. What's wrong, Kushina? He asked, curious about her expression. You can understand foxes? She asked suddenly. Minato raised an eyebrow, remembering that only he could understand Shirou. Oh, I can actually. It's a clan ability of mine, he explained, hoping she wouldn't ask too many questions. Like Tsum-chan's clan that can understand dogs, Kushina stated matter-of-factly. Minato chuckled nervously. Why yeah, like Tsum-san's clan, but instead of dogs, we can understand foxes, and foxes are smarter than dogs, he replied. Before Kushina could ask another question, 3 ANBU members dropped in front of them, surprising both of them. Namikaze-san, Hokage-sama instructed you to bring Uzumaki-san to his office and report what happened. We will handle the rest, said an ANBU wearing a boar mask, directing the others to take the enemy Nin to the TNA. Minato nodded and followed orders, jumping from tree to tree while balancing Kushina in his arms and controlling his chakra to avoid slipping. Shirou trailed behind them. Kushina watched him in awe and admiration, her heart racing as Minato held her close. She could smell sunshine and roses on him, a scent she found comforting, and she realized she was falling for him. Meanwhile, Hiruzen had received alarming news from Kushina's cousin, Uzumaki Kazami, who rushed into his office, saying she hadn't returned home. An hour later, Shirou burst in through the window, carrying a letter from Minato detailing that he had encountered 3 Kumo ninjas with Kushina as their hostage. Hiruzen immediately ordered his ANBU to investigate. After some time, as he and Kazami awaited the reinforcements, Minato arrived through the window, carrying Kushina. In his arms with Shirou following closely. After gently setting Kushina down, the two greeted Hiruzen. Hokage-sama, they said in unison. Hiruzen nodded and turned to Minato. State your report, Minato-kun. Minato explained what had happened, detailing how he and Shirou were on their way to their usual training ground when they sensed something was wrong. When they decided to return home, Shirou had picked up a familiar scent and alerted Minato. They followed the scent and saw the state Kushina was in. Minato decided to save her and sent Shirou to report the situation to Hiruzen. When the enemy ninja was distracted, he chose to launch a sneak attack using a seal that Naruto had invented for his training. He activated the paralysis seal on the enemies, rendering their bodies numb and unable to move. Hiruzen appeared in a puff of smoke while listening to Minato's explanation and felt proud of the young man's achievement. It seemed that Naruto had raised him well. Well done, Minato-kun. If it weren't for you, Kushina-chan would have been taken by Kumo already. Thank you, Hiruzen said gratefully. Minato felt his face heat up at the Hokage's praise. Suddenly, Kazami, Kushina's cousin, approached him. Minato looked at him in confusion and curiosity, not expecting him to bow. Namikaze, I'm grateful to you for saving my cousin. Thank you, Kazami said. Minato flushed in embarrassment, unsure of how to respond. Kushina, standing beside her cousin, also bowed slightly. All he could do was smile and stammer, "Why you're welcome." After that, they decided to end the day since it was already past dinner and everyone was tired from the events. Minato offered for them to stay with him, as his father's summons were looking after him until Naruto returned. The two agreed with Hokage's permission and stayed in the Namikaze mansion for a week until everything was under control and there were no more enemies lurking in the village. Before the start of the Fourth Shinobi War, news arrived that Satsuki was Genin, and Naruto was delighted to learn he would be a father. However, the war broke out, and Satsuki died while still 2 months Genin, saving Sasuke from an attack meant for him. Now, with her alive in this timeline, Naruto was confused. Satsuki, noticing his thoughts, decided to explain, I was brought here by the Sage of the Six Paths 3 years ago. He said I needed to help you travel back in time to save the future. Knowing you needed me, I accepted. But when I arrived, I wasn't in good condition to fight or travel, so I stayed in a nearby village until I could find you. Naruto smiled at her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. They shared a long kiss, but he accidentally brushed her abdomen and froze. They broke the kiss when Satsuki noticed his sudden tension. She saw him looking at her abdomen with a mix of loss and heartbreak, and she smiled softly. Taking his hand from her stomach, she held it gently and caressed his cheek. Don't worry, dear. Our child came with me, and I gave beer to our daughter in the village I mentioned earlier. Hearing that his child was safe and had been born brought Naruto immense joy. He didn't even notice the tears flowing down his face, filled with happiness. Kurama, inside him, also smiled at the news and was pleased for his partner. Can I meet her? He asked uncertainly. Satsuki smiled and took his hand, leading him to the village where she and their daughter had lived for the past 3 years. After about an hour, they arrived at the village gate. As they walked inside, every civilian turned to them, mostly focused on him. Whispers filled the air, and with his enhanced hearing, he caught snippets of their conversations. Is that? Oh gosh, he's handsome. He looks just like Izumi-chan. Satsuki-chan is so lucky. He raised an eyebrow at the attention Satsuki was receiving. She whispered, I saved the village from a group of bandits, so they see me as their hero. You know the rest. Naruto chuckled as they continued walking to Satsuki's home. When they arrived at a normal-sized 2-story house with a blue rooftop, Satsuki opened the door and called, I'm home. Naruto heard little footsteps running toward them, and then a 2-year-old girl with blonde hair came into view. He blinked in shock at her energy and was taken aback by the color of her eyes. Instead of inheriting his blue eyes or Satsuki's onyx ones, she had Kurama's red eyes. The girl jumped into Satsuki's arms, exclaiming, Mommy. Satsuki giggled at her daughter's antics, who was just like her father, full of energy. How is my Izumi doing while Mommy was gone? Did you give Rei-Hasan any trouble? Satsuki asked in a motherly tone. Izumi grinned mischievously, indicating she had indeed caused some mischief. Satsuki sighed at her daughter, realizing she was taking after her father. Izumi then noticed someone behind her mother and turned to see a man with the same blonde hair and blue eyes, marked by whisker-like lines on his cheeks. She recognized him from a picture her mother had shown her, a photo of her mother with the man who was her father. Her mother had often told her stories about him, describing him as a strong, great man who was loving, caring, and always put others before himself. When she asked where he was, her mother had answered with longing eyes that he was a shinobi on a mission and would return when the time was right. Even at just 2 years old, Izumi understood that this man was her father. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she hesitantly called out, Eddie, afraid she might be mistaken. Naruto looked at her when she called him Daddy, feeling a rush of emotions that nearly brought him to tears. He crouched down to her level, opening his arms wide to invite her in. Izumi glanced at her mother, who nodded encouragingly. Hesitantly, she walked toward him. When she saw her father smile warmly, she ran into his arms, exclaiming, Daddy. Naruto hugged her tightly, tears of happiness in his eyes, and Satsuki joined the embrace, feeling their family was finally complete. Later, after their bonding time, Naruto explained the situation in Konoha to Satsuki. He told her he had adopted his 5-year-old father, Minato, as his son because they shared BLD and appearance, which would raise suspicions if they weren't seen as father and son. To maintain their cover, he had altered a bit of Minato's DNA to give him fox-like traits. Thankfully, Izumi was asleep in his arms and missed the conversation. Satsuki took the news in stride, thinking that having Minato as her son wasn't a bad idea, even if he was technically her father-in-law. She understood the feeling of not having family nearby, having lost her own parents. She had been fortunate to have her twin brother, but after Sasuke left her in pursuit of vengeance, she had fought on because of Naruto's support. The couple then discussed their plans to return to Konoha. Naruto decided to send a letter to the third Hokage about Satsuki and their daughter, Namake's Izumi. Satsuki suggested using Naruto's surname for safety reasons. The Uchiha clan would be in an uproar if they discovered her and Izumi, and their bloodline could attract unwanted attention. Additionally, since Izumi didn't exhibit any Uchiha traits, it would be easier to hide her. Naruto expressed concern for Satsuki, knowing that if they returned to Konoha, people would recognize her as an Uchiha, which could lead to problems. "Hey honey, I was wondering if we go back to Konoha, do you think you might want to change your appearance so the Uchiha won't get suspicious?" Satsuki raised an eyebrow at the question. "I thought about that too, but if I use a transformation, they'll notice with their Sharingan. Do you have an idea?" Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. "Well, you know I'm a seal emsu, right?" Satsuki nodded. "I thought of using one of the seals I made for you. It won't be detected by Sharingan, Byakugan, or any other shinobi eyes. How about it? Do you want me to set it up?" Satsuki smiled and nodded, giving him permission to proceed. By the time he finished, Izumi had woken up and was curious about what her parents were doing. When Naruto activated the seal, Satsuki's appearance began to change. She still had her raven hair, but it now had silver tips, and her eye color shifted to match Izumi's, making it clear they were mother and daughter. Naruto had often wondered how Izumi had inherited Kurama's eyes instead of his or Satsuki's. When he asked Kurama, the fox smirked and explained, "I'm inside you, remember? We merged, so our DNA is connected, and my genes mixed with yours, resulting in Izumi having one of my features. So she's technically my daughter too. And I'm happy about that." Naruto sighed, knowing he couldn't argue with Kurama about this. He understood that Kurama had longed for a family but had been sealed away, which fueled his resentment toward the man who had imprisoned him. So if he wanted his own kits, Naruto didn't mind, as they technically shared the same BLD as the child. After that, they discussed leaving the village in 3 days after Satsuki and Izumi said goodbye and thanked the people who had helped them over the past 3 years. When Minato heard that his father would be coming back today, he was delighted. He had received news from his father's summons that his father's mate was still alive and that he would also be having a little sister. Minato felt both delighted and nervous. He was excited about the new addition to the family but anxious about whether his soon-to-be stepmother and half-sister would like him. Once he heard the news, he immediately cleaned the room for his little sister and tidied up his father's bedroom. He also stocked the groceries that were starting to run low. Fortunately, it was a day off from the academy, allowing him to prepare for his new family members. While he was putting the groceries away in the kitchen, he heard the front door open and his father's voice call out, "I'm home. Minato, can you come here for a moment? There's someone I want you to meet." Hurrying to his father, Minato felt the moment to meet his stepmother and half-sister had finally arrived. He stopped in front of his father. "What is it that?" Naruto smiled and stepped back a little for Minato to see 2 figures, an adult woman and a little girl hiding behind her, likely a mother and child. Minato studied the woman first. She was the same age as his father, with appealing silky raven hair and striking red eyes. When their eyes met, she gave him a warm, motherly smile. Seeing her genuine smile, he smiled back. His gaze then shifted to the little girl, who was still hiding behind her mother while peeking out. She had bright blonde hair like him and his father, and her ruby eyes looked at him curiously. The girl appeared to be about 2.5 years old. "Let me introduce you. This is Satsuki, my mate. So she's basically officially my wife by the Fox's laws. I know it will take time for you to open up and treat her as your own mother, but she will be your mother from now on," Naruto said softly, not wanting Minato to feel trapped in this sudden situation. He believed in his son and hoped Minato wouldn't hold a grudge. Seeing his son nod in understanding, Naruto smiled and ruffled his hair, feeling relieved that Minato was trying to accept the news. Noticing where Minato's eyes were focused, he followed his son's gaze and saw the little girl peeking shyly from behind Satsuki. Naruto chuckled at his 2-year-old daughter, who looked curiously at her brother. He extended his hand to Izumi, gesturing for her to take it. Izumi jumped at the sight of his hand and turned to her father in confusion. "Come here, sweetie." Izumi took his hand and hesitantly walked in front of him. Her red eyes met Minato's blue ones, which were the same color as their father's. "Minato, this is Namikaze Izumi, your half-sister. Izumi-chan, say hello to your big brother." Izumi nodded curtly and shyly approached her big brother. "Hi, I'm Izumi. Nice to meet you, Oniai-chan." Minato smiled at his new little sister, crouching to her level and offering his hand. "Hello, Izumi-chan. My name is Namikaze Minato. Nice to meet you too. Let's get along, right?" Izumi nodded shyly and took Minato's hand. Naruto smiled at them, glad that Minato accepted Izumi. "Minato, how about you show your sister around?" Minato nodded, and the children ran off, leaving the parents behind, with a white fox trailing after them. Naruto and Satsuki exchanged smiles, relieved that at least Minato and Izumi were getting along. For Minato, Izumi was still young and didn't understand much, so seeing him accept her as his little sister was a great relief. Naruto believed that one day Minato would warm up to Satsuki as well. After Satsuki and Izumi settled down a bit, taking a rest after traveling for 2 days, it was time for dinner. Even though she felt tired, Satsuki decided to make dinner but was stopped by Naruto, who insisted she rest while he cooked. Satsuki wanted to protest but realized she didn't have much strength, so she let her husband take over. Izumi was already fast asleep beside Minato, who was reading a book in the living room. "Dinner's ready," called Naruto, and they began to eat while enjoying good conversation. "So Minato, I heard from Hokasama that you rescued Kushina-chan from being kidnapped by Kumo. Well done. I'm so proud of you," praised Naruto. Minato blushed at the praise from his father and grinned, feeling great that what he had done was the right thing to do. A month later, since Naruto brought Satsuki and Izumi back to Konoha, the villagers were in an uproar when they heard that the Fox Sanin Naruto was a married man with a 2-year-old daughter who looked just like him, sharing the same blonde hair but inheriting her mother's ruby eyes. Everyone had been asking about the mysterious wife and her origins, often spotting her walking around the village with a blonde little girl, mostly in the market district. Each time they laid eyes on her, they remarked on her beauty. With her silky long raven hair, pale skin that glimmered in the sunlight, and bright ruby eyes that sparkled in the moonlight, she was the epitome of grace. Her slim figure only added to her allure, making other girls envious of what she possessed. It was no surprise that the Fox Sanin was drawn to her. They seemed perfect for each other. Both were strikingly attractive, and their happiness together was evident, much to the delight of their admirers. Minato was gradually warming up to Satsuki, though there was still an awkwardness between them when they were alone. However, conversations about shared interests helped ease the tension. Satsuki would sometimes pick Minato up from the academy, with Izumi accompanying her whenever Naruto was away on a mission. Today was no different. Satsuki was on her way to the academy with Izumi in tow, as Naruto had left for another mission. Satsuki was eager to resume her career as a kunoichi, but as an outsider, she faced a 6-month prohibition imposed by the Hokage to prevent suspicion about their assets in the village. Upon arriving at the academy, they noticed other parents waiting for their children. While they waited, one mother approached Satsuki and Izumi. "It's been a while, Satsuki-chan. How are you?" "Oh, Izumi-chan is here too." "Hello," greeted Nara Mutsumi, a woman with brown hair and eyes, with a warm smile. Satsuki returned the smile. "I'm fine, Mutsumi-san. How about you?" They engaged in light conversation about their children and families. The school bell rang, signaling the end of the day, and children began to emerge one by one. Izumi spotted her brother's white fox partner. "Shirchan," she exclaimed excitedly, catching the attention of the white fox resting on Minato's head. Minato, accompanied by his best friend Nara Shikaku, noticed Satsuki and Izumi and ran toward them, with Shikaku trailing behind upon seeing his mother with Satsuki. Satsuki smiled as she saw her son approaching, while Izumi rushed to hug Minato. He returned the embrace, a small smile gracing his face. Minato felt a wave of happiness for having a loving little sister and a mother who accepted him. This was the family he had always dreamed of. He gently set Izumi down, grinning as he ruffled her hair, much to her dismay. Satsuki greeted him fondly. How was school, Minato-kun? Did you have any problems in class? Minato shook his head. School was good. I can keep up with the classes, even though they're getting harder each year. Dad's training helps a lot, he replied cheerfully. Satsuki chuckled, pleased to hear him talk about his progress toward becoming a great ninja like Naruto. She thought of her beloved husband and felt a pang of longing, even though he had only been gone for a few hours. All she could do was pray for his safety. Meanwhile, Naruto was on a mission of his own. With Satsuki and their daughter back, he was determined to find Madara and Zetsu and end their threat once and for all. The last time he had been on a mission, he sensed Zetsu's presence near the border of Hai no Kuni and Mizu no Kuni and had sent his summon to investigate. Fortunately, the summon had located them. Now, he and Kurama in human form were on their way to confront their enemies. As they entered a deep cave, Naruto felt the familiar presence of the foes he longed to defeat. He nodded to Kurama, and they cautiously made their way inside. The energy grew stronger as they ventured deeper, and they prepared for a confrontation with the Uchiha and Zetsu. Madara, Zetsu, get ready to go to hell. Naruto shouted, a wide grin spreading across his face as excitement coursed through him. Back at home, Satsuki was studying scrolls in the living room after putting the children to bed. She decided to head to bed after reading a few jutsu scrolls when a loud thump echoed from the front door. Eyes narrowed, she cautiously walked to the front door and slowly opened it. Her eyes widened in horror when she saw the person covered in BLD from head to toe. The person grinned at her fondly, "Good afternoon, my appealing wife." "Naruto," she exclaimed in fear, hurriedly carrying her husband inside. The scream of Satsuki's voice woke the kids, Minato and Izumi, who hurried downstairs to check on the commotion. They froze in shock at the sight of their father. "Dad!" Minato exclaimed, fear etched on his face, while Izumi began to cry beside Naruto as Satsuki laid him on the couch. She quickly went to prepare a clean towel and a bucket of water to clean the BLD from him. Naruto saw his children and smiled softly, hugging them with love and care. "Daddy is all right, don't worry. This will heal in no time. Daddy can't die yet. I still have you two and your mother to take care of. I want to see you both grow up to become the great ninjas you dream of. So don't worry, my beloved children. I won't go anywhere until you don't need me anymore. Then I can rest knowing you will be fine without me. I promise." Satsuki watched the scene with tears streaming down her cheeks, feeling a mix of sympathy and guilt for allowing the children to experience the harsh realities of a shinobi's life. Naruto gazed at the ceiling in a daze after Satsuki and the children cleaned him up. She helped him to their rooms so he could lie down comfortably, but the children clung to him, unwilling to leave his side. In defeat, he and Satsuki permitted them to stay and sleep with them that night. With the children nestled between them, Minato on one side and Izumi on the other, they held on tightly even as they drifted off to sleep. Naruto's thoughts, however, were elsewhere, reflecting on the incident that had occurred before he returned home from his mission. He and Kurama had managed to find Madara and Zetsu and fought against them. While he dealt with Zetsu, Kurama faced Madara, who was as stubborn as ever. Zetsu, slippery like a snake, was captured using Naruto's Uzumaki chakra chains. He utilized a seal given to him by the Sage of Six Paths, which resulted in Zetsu being crushed beneath the ground. After dealing with Zetsu, he turned to help Kurama, who was struggling against Madara. The battle was intense, and Naruto sustained an injury to his shoulder blade, causing him to bleed more than he liked. Thanks to his resilience and Kurama's chakra, he managed to stop the bleeding, but the BLD still stained his clothes, a reminder of the fight. After 2 exhausting hours, they finally defeated Madara, though they were battered and low on chakra. Kurama used his foxfire to burn Madara's body before retreating to rest in their shared mindscape, leaving Naruto to catch his breath in the devastated forest. Desperate to return home, he stood up and headed toward Konoha, his village, his home. He felt overwhelmed with joy at the thought of sharing the news of their victory with Satsuki. He couldn't wait to embrace her, relieved that the greatest threat to their world was gone. Though other dangers remained, they could finally take a moment to rest. That was how he returned home, bloodied and exhausted, leaning on Satsuki for support as he struggled to stay upright. He felt a mix of embarrassment and guilt showing his bloodied appearance to the kids, fearing it would make them sad and scared of losing him. He tried to assure them that he was all right and wouldn't leave them so soon. Eventually, they relaxed but still kept their distance. He let them feel his warm body, reminding them that he was still alive. 6 years later, Naruto and Kurama had successfully eliminated Madara and Zetsu. A lot had happened during those years. For instance, he had trained Minato until he could handle his limits for his age, allowing him to grow his second tail. Satsuki was promoted to Jounin, Izumi unlocked her fox trait at the age of 4, and Shirou grew his third tail. Satsuki befriended Tsunade, while Naruto formed a bond with Hatake Tsukumo. Izumi found her fox partner, a female black fox kit named Cheyenne, with one tail and blue slitted eyes. Izumi discovered Cheyenne trapped in a hunter's trap while on vacation in Cha no Kuni and freed her. She brought Cheyenne to her family, and Naruto gladly healed the kit, welcoming her into their family. Today was the day Minato graduated from the Ninja Academy and would become a Genin starting tomorrow. The test consisted of a written exam, shuriken and kunai throwing, taijutsu, and basic ninjutsu. Minato was confident he would pass and make his father proud. He and Shirou had worked hard over the past 6 years to reach this level, and his father had already told them that their strength surpassed Genin level and was nearing Chunin level. Minato, Shirou, and their classmates waited in the classroom for the exam to start. When Sanjiro-sensei, their homeroom teacher, walked in with his assistant, the classroom fell silent. No one wanted to get on Sanjiro-sensei's bad side. He could be intimidating when upset. Sanjiro-sensei looked at them with a sad but proud smile. Alright, for those of you who already know, today is your graduation day. We will give you a test to see if you are worthy of becoming a Genin of the Leaf Village. Now, since we don't want to waste any time, let's start, shall we? Good luck, students. Time passed, and Minato and Shirou emerged from the academy building, proudly wearing their headbands on their foreheads and necks. Outside, Minato spotted his father's blonde hair, and his expression brightened with happiness. "Dad!" he exclaimed, running toward him with Shirou trailing behind. Naruto waved at his son with a proud grin when he saw the hitayate tied around Minato's forehead. When Minato reached him, Naruto ruffled his hair with a wide grin. "Congratulations, son. I knew you would pass the test. Now, let's go home and celebrate your achievement as a shinobi of our village." Minato nodded and took his father's hand, walking beside him with joy. The next day at the Hokage office, many Jounin gathered inside, including Naruto, who was conversing with the others. The Hokage sat at his desk, inhaling his pipe while waiting for one more person to join them. He heard shuffling by the window and turned to see a man with spiky long white hair and brown eyes, marked with red lines under each eye. "Sorry, I'm late, sensei. I just came back from my research," the man said. Sarutobi Hiruzen rolled his eyes at his former student and sighed. "It's all right, Jiraiya. At least you're not that late. Go to your position, we're getting started." Jiraiya nodded and stood next to a brown-haired Jounin. Hiruzen cleared his throat to get everyone's attention. "Since everyone is already here, let's start with the team placements for the Genin. Starting with Team 1. 30 minutes later, Hiruzen announced, for Team 6, consisting of Hyuga Hizashi, Uchiha Ryuchi, and Uzumaki Kushina, their sensei will be Namikaze Naruto. Whispers spread among the Jounin. Who wouldn't be curious about a famous shinobi? Naruto nodded in acceptance, sensing Jiraiya's curious gaze. He returned the nod in greeting. Team 7 consists of Hyuga Hina, Namikaze Minato, and Uchiha Fugaku. Their sensei will be Jiraiya, Hiruzen continued, assigning the teams. More whispers followed, as Jiraiya was known for his achievements as Konoha's spymaster. Hiruzen cleared his throat again to regain attention, giving the shinobi an annoyed glare. Team 8 consists of Aburame Shibi, Hyuga Hayashi, and Inazuka Tsum. Their sensei will be Honda Katsuya. Team 9 consists of Uchiha Mikoto, Uzumaki Kazami, and Yamanaka Itsushi. Their sensei will be Takahashi Takumi. Lastly, Team 10 consists of Akamichi Chuza, Nara Shikaku, and Yamanaka Inoichi. Their sensei will be Kobayashi Misaki. That concludes the Genin placements. If anyone has something to say, please speak before I dismiss you. No one spoke until Jiraiya asked, shouldn't this Minato kid be placed on his father's team instead of mine? He would know what to teach or look for. Everyone fell silent, considering Jiraiya's point. Hiruzen looked at Naruto, expecting him to respond. Naruto cleared his throat, gaining everyone's attention. It's not that I don't want my son as my student, but I want him to learn something different from another teacher. By learning from others, you can identify what you lack, what you need to improve, and what skills you should add. For the past 9 years, I've been training him with the knowledge I possess and passing it on. That's why it's perfectly fine for Minato to be in your care and learn something new from you, provided you don't mind teaching him what is necessary. Everyone in the room was taken aback by Naruto's statement, even Jiraiya, except for Sarutobi, who looked satisfied with the answer. The Hokage cleared his throat, bringing everyone back to focus. Does Naruto-kun's answer satisfy your curiosity, Jiraiya? If so, you are all dismissed. Every Jounin, along with Naruto and Jiraiya, bowed to their Kage and exited the room to gather their teams. Minato and his partner were waiting for their Jounin sensei to pick them up. They had already been informed of their team placements earlier before lunch, and he was curious about who their sensei would be since Sanjiro sensei hadn't announced it. He watched as the other teams left with their senseis until only Team 6 and his team remained. Suddenly, the doors opened, and in walked his father with blonde hair. His eyes widened in disbelief. He exclaimed in shock. Naruto turned to his son and grinned, "Yo." He then addressed Kushina and her team. Team 6, meet me at Training Ground 14 in 5 minutes. If you're late, there will be consequences, he said before disappearing in a flash. Everyone fell silent for a moment until someone groaned. Dad wasn't our sensei, Minato said, disappointment evident in his voice. He turned to team, you guys better hurry up. If there's one thing you should know about my dad, it's that he sticks to his word. If he says there will be consequences, then there will be consequences. Hearing this, Team 6 hurriedly followed after their sensei to where they were supposed to meet, leaving Team 7 in the classroom. When Kushina, Hizashi, and Ryuchi finally arrived at Training Ground 14, they stopped in front of Naruto and Kurama, breathing heavily. Good, you're on time. I'll give you a moment to catch your breath, then we'll start with introductions. They nodded and took their seats to rest. After about 2 minutes, they managed to calm their breathing. Naruto nodded when he saw his future students were calm enough to speak. Alright, let's start with introductions. Name, age, birthday, likes, dislikes, hobbies, and dreams. Who wants to go first? Naruto asked casually. You can go first since we already know a bit about each other, Kushina said shyly. Naruto nodded and began to introduce himself. My name is Namikaze Naruto, but you can call me Naruto-sensei. This is my partner, Kurama. I'm 30 years old, and my birthday is October 10th. I love my wife and family, training, cooking, spending time with my family, ramen, foxes, and creating new jutsu. I dislike betrayal, traitors, those who abandon their comrades, arrogance, pridefulness, and heartless people. My hobbies include cooking, training, and creating new seals. As for my dream, it's already fulfilled. Next, Kushina-chan. Kushina's shyness turned into a grin. My name is Uzumaki Kushina. I'm 13 years old, and my birthday is July 10th. I love my family, my village in Yuzushio, Konoha too, but my home is Yuzushio, ramen, dango, and my friends. I dislike perverts and arrogant people. Kushina-chan, language. Naruto scolded playfully. Sorry, sensei. My hobbies are training and cooking, and my dream is to be a strong kunoichi. Databane. Naruto nodded in approval, grinning back at her warmly. He turned to his 2 male students, who were tense with each other, likely due to their clan's rivalry. I know that both of your clans have a history of rivalry, but I won't tolerate that behavior in my team. As a team, we work together and defend each other. You're a team now, and your teammates are what will make you strong. It's a testament to your own strength if you can recognize the strengths in others and learn to work with them. Letting your teammates down because of pride or arrogance means you are just as weak as those who lack physical strength. Weaker, Because you have no excuse. The three genin nodded, awed by his words. Naruto smiled at them, proud that they were listening. He gestured for the young Uchiha to continue. My name is Uchiha Ryuichi. I'm 13 years old and my birthday is June 21st. I love training, onigiri, and fried chicken. I dislike being underestimated and my clan's gloomy nature. My hobbies are training and drawing. My dream is to be a strong shinobi who doesn't always have to depend on my clan's bloodline. Naruto smiled at him and nodded in approval, then turned to his Hyuga student. Hisashi saw it was his turn and introduced himself. My name is Hyuga Hisashi. I'm 13 years old and my birthday is January 8th. I like my brother, training, and quality tea. I dislike betrayal, traitors, and torture. My hobbies are training with my brother and collecting quality tea. My dream is to be strong by my brother's side and support his dreams. Naruto nodded, looking at his future students. Alright, you all have unique personalities and I like that. Even though you've graduated, you aren't exactly genin yet. What do you mean, sensei? Kushina asked, confusion evident on their faces. There's one more test that academy graduates are required to complete if they want to stay ninjas. Otherwise, it's back to the academy if you still want to try again, Naruto explained. What is it? Kushina asked excitedly, eager to prove her worth. Naruto smirked at them, causing the three pre-genin to shiver at the look their sensei gave them. Each of them thought the same thing. This will be the challenge of our lives. Minato looked at his genin teacher, unimpressed, and his two teammates did the same. His teacher, Jiraiya, the Toad Sage, introduced himself with a smug expression. Not only was he overconfident, but he also had a reputation for being a major pervert. They moved to Training Ground 7, where they each introduced themselves. When it was Minato's turn, he gladly introduced himself. My name is Namikaze Minato, and this is my partner Shirou. I'm 13 years old. I like my family, training with my dad and Shirou, my dad's cooking, foxes, my friends, and learning Fuinjutsu. I dislike being abandoned, betrayal, and traitors. My hobbies are training and spending time with my family. My dream is to become a great shinobi just like my dad. When he finished, Jiraiya-sensei informed them that they weren't exactly genin yet and gave them a test to pass. They had to retrieve a bell from him by afternoon. If they failed, they wouldn't pass. Thanks to his quick thinking, Minato understood the true meaning behind the test and expected it to be based on teamwork. He knew that three-member genin squads were rare, usually only occurring when one member was either promoted or unable to continue. His father had drilled the importance of teamwork into him, so he shared this insight with his teammates, and they agreed to work together to get the bell. After using every plan they could think of, they finally succeeded in obtaining the bells and officially became genin. They were dismissed afterward, and as Minato and Shirou coincidentally walked toward Team SIX's training ground, Minato's jaw dropped at the sight before him. The area was half destroyed, with crumbled earth, burning grass, and toppled trees. He spotted his former classmates limping on the ground, breathing heavily, their clothes tattered and faces smeared with dirt and scratches. His father stood in front of them, untouched, with a smug expression on his face. He called and his father turned to him, grinning. "Ooh, Minato. How was your test? Did you pass?" asked his father. Minato nodded, still dumbfounded, and walked over to stand beside him. His father smiled proudly. "Congratulations, then. I knew you could do it." He ruffled Minato's golden hair and turned to the three with a proud grin. "Congratulations, team, you all passed. We'll start our training tomorrow at 5 a.m., and in the afternoon, we'll go on our first mission. That's all for today, dismissed." After ruffling Minato's hair one last time, he and Kurama disappeared. Minato looked at his friends with concern. "You guys all right?" he asked. He didn't get an immediate response as they were still catching their breath. Kushina was the first to recover, her stamina evident. "Minato, breathe. Your dad is insane," she said, groaning. Minato scratched the back of his head sheepishly. "Well, that's how my dad has trained me for the past 9 years. His training can be harsh sometimes, but it's worth it," he said bluntly. Team 6 looked at their former classmate with a mix of pity and admiration. They knew Minato was strong, stronger than them. If his achievements came from his father, they felt honored to have Namake's Naruto, known as the Fox Sage, as their sensei. The three new Genin couldn't help but feel excited about the training they would receive from the legendary sage starting tomorrow. 3 years later, Minato had turned 16, and he and his team had become Chunin. Just like Team over the past 3 years, Minato trained hard to become a skilled shinobi under Jiraiya's guidance and his father's mentorship. While Jiraiya was technically his sensei, the pervert often disappeared, leaving them to manage their own training. At least he provided them with some tasks, such as chakra control and practicing their ninjutsu and taijutsu. However, whenever they sought help, Jiraiya seemed to vanish before training began, leaving the three frustrated and annoyed. Determined to take matters into his own hands, Minato went to find his father, where Team 6 usually trained. His teammates followed him, knowing he often sought his father's advice when facing challenges. Naruto welcomed Team 7 to join his training sessions, and Minato wondered how his father had become so strong without Jiraiya's constant supervision. Kurama explained that Minato was a hard worker, despite being born a genius, just like his father had been. Hearing this made sense to Minato, and he continued to train alongside his father and his team until they all achieved Chunin status. Jiraiya would occasionally join them, but only after Naruto threatened him with a powerful barrier seal to prevent him from peeping. Naruto was quite protective of his family, especially when his wife and daughter visited the bathhouse. So no one would harm his family while he was still alive. When he saw his son come out wearing a Chunin vest, with Shirou beside him, he felt a surge of pride for Minato's achievements. Minato had grown into a fine young man. He was strong, though not as strong as Naruto yet. His personality mirrored that of the Minato Naruto knew as his father, shy at times but serious when it came to missions, protective of his family, especially his baby sister Izumi, kind and charming to others, calm and collected, and always polite. Minato had made a name for himself through hard work and earned a place in the bingo book. He went by the name Kiro Kitsune, or Yellow Flash. This name came from his ability to harness the power of his bloodline, the Fox Light. When he used this power, his fox features emerged, and his body glowed with yellow flames. He moved at incredible speeds, leaving trails of yellow fire behind him. It was the most dazzling jutsu inherited from the Kitsune clan. Despite using this jutsu, no one suspected he was from an extinct clan, ensuring his family's safety. However, he often felt the weight of comparison to his father, the legendary Fox Sanin, especially when working alongside Shirou to defeat enemies and complete missions. After returning home exhausted from a mission, Minato was greeted by the comforting aroma of his stepmother's cooking. He smiled fondly, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. "I'm home," he greeted softly, his fatigue evident. "Welcome home," came the lovely voice of his mother in response. He slid off his shinobi sandals and walked into the Namake's Kitsune mansion, heading toward the kitchen. To his surprise, he found his father there, sipping coffee while reading a scroll. Their eyes met, and the older man smiled warmly. "Welcome home, Minato. How was the mission?" he asked. Minato's smile was strained but genuine as he replied, "It was exhausting, but it's nothing I can't handle." He felt relieved to be home safely, and Shirou nodded in agreement beside him. Naruto beamed with pride. "That's good to hear. But don't push yourself, okay? If you're troubled by anything, don't hesitate to tell me or your mother," he said with parental concern. Minato nodded with a fond smile and excused himself to rest. Meanwhile, 11-year-old Izumi and her two-tailed black fox, Cheyenne, returned home from the academy. Sensing her brother's chakra in the house, she felt ecstatic. "I'm home. Is Nichan back from his mission?" she asked happily, rushing to find her parents. They chuckled at her energetic demeanor. "Welcome home, princess." "Yes, your brother just got back and is resting right now. Let him have a few hours, and then you can interrogate him for stories about his mission," Naruto said fondly. Izumi pouted cutely but nodded in understanding before heading to her room to clean up after her training. Later, the family of four gathered for dinner, enjoying comfortable conversation. Minato recounted tales from his mission to the excited and curious Izumi, while Naruto chimed in with questions and praise. However, Satsuki remained quiet and Naruto noticed. "Honey, what's wrong?" he asked with concern, drawing the attention of their children. Satsuki looked up from her food, her expression nervous. "I have to tell you something," she declared. Naruto nodded for her to continue. Taking a deep breath, Satsuki revealed, "I'm Reuniting." The three blondes gasped in shock, their jaws dropping. Naruto was the first to recover. "Reuniting?" he asked, uncertain of what he had just heard. Satsuki nodded, confirming his doubt, and smiled as she saw the joy spark in her husband's eyes. Naruto stood up from his seat and knelt in front of her, embracing her in a warm hug, a huge grin on his face. "How long?" he asked curiously. 3 weeks. I went for a checkup 2 days ago, and it's twins." Satsuki replied happily, rubbing her still flat belly. Naruto's eyes lit up even more. "Twins? Really?" he exclaimed with joy, embracing her tightly but gently. That's when the children broke from their shocked state, their faces brightening. Izumi was the first to cheer. "Does that mean I'm going to be a big sister? I'll have little brothers or sisters?" she asked excitedly. Their parents nodded fondly at her enthusiasm. Izumi jumped on her chair joyfully. "Nichan, I'm going to be a Nachan," she declared, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Minato chuckled at his little sister's enthusiasm, sharing in her joy. He had been wanting a little brother, but he wouldn't mind if the twins turned out to be girls. He would always protect his little siblings, whether they were girls or boys. However, having 3 little sisters would be challenging since he would have to chase the boys away from his precious little sisters. Next month. After the news that Satsuki was Reuniting with twins, Naruto decided to take only a short mission, one that would keep him away for just a day or 2. He didn't want to leave Satsuki unprotected and wanted to give her the attention she needed during this time. Naruto was ecstatic yet worried. This was the first time he would be caring for his Reuniting partner without the looming threat of war or enemies. For now, they were at peace. The village stood gloriously, flowers bloomed beautifully, and the waters of the river and lake were clear. The sky was bright with sunlight, and birds soared freely. They felt safe, at least for the moment. The Third Shinobi War had not yet begun, and they were uncertain if it ever would. Naruto had changed many things in this timeline, but they knew that peace could be fragile. If anyone tried to disrupt it, they would not get away easily. They were determined to protect what Naruto and Kurama had worked so hard to achieve. 5 months later, Minato was having a hard time. But because he was experiencing his first rut and was tossing around in bed, feeling the effects of his transformation. His father had explained that he was an alpha and would generally enter a rut every 3 months. However, with a bonded Omega mate, his ruts might align with his partner's heats. Not wanting to breed anyone other than his soulmate, he took sense suppressants to calm his rut and took a week off from missions. Thankfully, the Inuzuka clan had created these suppressants, as they experienced similar symptoms. Sum was surprised to learn that he was an alpha just like her. Izumi was prohibited from entering his room during this time, as he didn't want anything to happen while he was in a vulnerable state. The week after his rut, he resumed his duties as a seasoned shinobi and continued taking missions, keeping his rut CYSL in mind and noting the dates on his calendar. Right now, Minato was enjoying a great time in his life. He had a mission alongside his father, something he had always dreamed of. He wanted to see his father in action, serious and focused on the task at hand. The mission involved breaking into a base filled with armed bandits who had assaulted nearby mercenaries transporting goods from Uzushigakure to Konoha, near the border of the fire and wave countries. Usually, eliminating bandits would be a task for Chunin specialists, so Minato wondered why the Hokage had sent his father along. However, since his father wanted to stay close to Satsuki during her PRGNY, he was only taking C or B rank missions for the time being. Together, the father and son worked to eliminate the bandits one by one. Minato noticed that his father barely broke a sweat while he was breathing from exhaustion after they had taken down all the bandits, including their leader. They freed the hostages, most of whom were women and children, and Minato felt sick seeing their terrible condition. They were covered in injuries and bruises, some of which hadn't been treated for too long. The father and son brought the hostages to Uzushiogakure, as it was closer, and they didn't think the victims had the energy to travel back to Konoha. Upon arrival, they let the Yuzu shinobi handle the rest while Minato and his father walked to report to the Uzukage. As they walked, Minato looked around the village with wonder. He had never been to Uzushio before. The people here wore warm smiles, and the village was alive with the sounds of waves, laughter, and welcoming shouts from merchants. Suddenly, he caught a sweet scent that captivated his attention. It smelled of raspberry and lavender mixed with the salty ocean. The aroma was delightful, making his mind feel fuzzy and almost causing him to lose his footing. If not for his father catching him, he might have stumbled. His father gave him a worried look. "Are you all right, Minato?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. Minato assured him, "I'm all right, Dad. It's just this strong smell caught me by surprise." His father looked at him in confusion, raising an eyebrow. "What kind of smell? I didn't notice anything that would make you feel dizzy." Minato's eyes widened. His father had a keen sense of smell. How could he not detect it? The scent was overwhelming for Minato's sensitive nose. "What?" he stated in disbelief. His father observed him sharply, and Minato could see the realization clear in his eyes as he waited for an explanation about the strange situation. "Minato, when you smell this scent, what do you feel? Does it make you dizzy? Or is there a tingling sensation of excitement? Does it make your chakra go wild?" His father asked with curiosity. Minato blushed, feeling embarrassed, but the question made him pause. He did feel dizzy when he smelled it, and there was indeed a tingling sensation that made it hard for him to control himself. He could also sense his instincts and chakra stirring, as if they were trying to break free and chase something. Minato nodded at his father, who sighed. "Minato, the scent you just smelled is the scent of your soulmate." Minato's mouth dropped open in shock, and his eyes widened. He could tell he was making a funny face, especially since his father was trying hard not to laugh. "What?" he exclaimed quietly, not wanting to attract attention in the market. Turning in the direction of the scent, Minato looked on with longing and wonder. Naruto noticed the expression on his son's face and felt a swell of pride and happiness. He gently placed a hand on Minato's shoulder. Looking up at his father, Minato saw a gentle smile. "I know you want to find them, but remember that when you meet your soulmate face to face, your instincts might take over and that could be dangerous. I experienced that with Satsuki. I became aggressive and scared her. It hurt to see that fear in someone I loved. It took us a month to reconnect. I don't want you to go through that, so let's take it slow." "Dad." Minato looked at his father with admiration and gratitude, nodding in understanding. Naruto nodded back, satisfied. "Since we don't want you getting aggressive, Shirou will keep an eye on you. I need to head to the Uzukage Tower to give our mission report, so I can't be with you. Is that okay, Shirou?" he asked, glancing down at the Arctic fox beside Minato. Shirou wagged his tail happily and replied, "I would gladly help my partner when he needs me." Naruto smiled. "Good. When Minato's instincts kick in, that's your signal to hold him in place. The effect will calm down when he gets close to his soulmate scent. Once his instincts settle, it will be safe to let him go, but keep a watchful eye." Shirou nodded in understanding. Minato gasped in shock. "If my instincts come out, won't someone notice?" he asked anxiously. Naruto patted his son's shoulder reassuringly. "Don't worry about that. I know you'll be fine. Well then, I'll be going." "Good luck, Minato," he said before heading off to the Uzukage Tower, leaving Minato and Shirou to continue the search for his soulmate. "Well, Minato, use your nose and lead the way to your soulmate. I'm curious about who they are and hope they accept you," Shirou said, breaking the silence after Naruto left. Minato sighed and began to use his keen sense of smell to track the scent again. The two set off, and soon Minato caught the scent of his soulmate once more. At the Uzukage Tower, after Naruto submitted his report, the Uzukage called him in for a meeting. When Naruto arrived, the Uzukage invited him for tea and placed a privacy seal on the room. They chatted like old friends until the conversation turned to their children. Naruto mentioned that Minato had found his soulmate's scent and was currently searching for them. That's surprising to hear. I hope he ends up with Kushina, just like in your timeline, the Uzukage joked. Naruto laughed. Sounds like you approve of their relationship. The Uzukage shrugged and took a sip of his tea. If that's the way to unite our families, I wouldn't mind having Minato-kun as my son-in-law. Naruto choked on his drink, staring at the Uzukage in disbelief. You're joking, right? Please tell me you're joking because that's not funny, he said, horrified. The Uzukage smirked, and Naruto gasped in silence. Just then, someone knocked on the office door. Enter, the Uzukage permitted. The door opened to reveal Minato, his face red and looking shy, with someone behind him sporting silky crimson hair. Naruto raised an eyebrow at his son's demeanor. Minato, he called, and the boy looked up at his father when his name was mentioned. Father, he greeted politely, standing before Uzukage. He turned to Uzukage and bowed, Uzukage-sama, mirroring his greeting to Naruto. The Uzukage nodded at the boy and then acknowledged the person behind him. The individual stepped forward, revealing a familiar face, a teenage girl the same age as Minato, who grinned at them. Greetings, father. The two adults blinked in surprise and exchanged glances. The Uzukage then grinned at Naruto. Well, looks like this is destiny. Don't you think, Naruto? He joked. Naruto huffed and turned back to the two teenagers with a smile. Have a seat, you two. Let's hear your stories. A few years later, a 19-year-old Minato stood in one of Konoha's training grounds with 3 genin. One was a 6-year-old boy with spiky gray hair and dark gray eyes, wearing a dark blue mask that covered half of his face. He appeared laid back and aloof. His name was Hatake Kakashi. Next to him was a 13-year-old girl with short brown hair and amber-green eyes, sporting purple markings on her cheeks. Her name was Noera Rin. Beside her was a boy of the same age with spiky raven hair and onyx eyes, wearing orange goggles on his head. His name was Uchiha Obito. Minato looked at his new students with fondness. Alright, let's start with introductions. Name, age, birthday, likes, dislikes, hobbies, and dreams. I'll start first, then the one on my left will continue. He received nods in response, smiled, and began his introduction. My name is Namikaze Kitsune Minato. I'm 19 years old. My birthday is January 25th. I like my family, foxes, my father's cooking, my girlfriend, and creating new jutsu. I dislike anyone looking down on my family's strength, heartless people, anyone who tries to snatch my girlfriend away while we're on a date, and interruptions during my sealing progress. My hobbies include training, cooking, gardening, spending time with my family or girlfriend, and experimenting with my sealing skills. My dream is to become my father's right-hand man. When he finished, he heard someone snort. Well, you still have a long way to go, sensei. Dad won't leave his spot until he retires. Yondaime-sama still needs him by his side, Kakashi said with pride. Instead of feeling offended, Minato smirked slyly. Thank you for the advice, Kakashi-kun, but there's one thing you don't know about my family genes. We won't grow old until we turn 21, so we'll stay young until we pass away. His students gasped, and Minato smiled knowingly at them. So, when Tsukumo-san grows old and loses his prime, my father will still look the same as he does now. You may have noticed that Hokage-sama still looks like he's in his 20s despite being in his 30s, he added with a sly grin. He chuckled at their expressions. A few years ago, the Sandaime Hokage announced his successor, and his father was chosen to be the next Hokage, making Namikaze Kitsune Naruto the Yondaime Hokage. Hatake Tsukumo had been asked to be the Yondaime's right-hand man since the two were best friends. After his father took the hat, he announced their Kitsune clan names so that when citizens saw their hybrid form, they wouldn't be alarmed and would label it as their clan's Kekei Genkai. Clearing his throat to regain their attention, he continued, All right, I've said my piece. Now, it's your turn to introduce yourselves, starting with my left, Obito-kun. The orange-goggled boy bounced on his feet and grinned. Yo, my name is Uchiha Obito. I'm 13, my birthday is February 10th. Time skip. Good work, everyone. Minato stated with a satisfied smile. The three genin in front of him were breathing hard. Even Kakashi, who had good stamina for his age, looked tired. Team 7 had been doing a survival test to assess their teamwork. Although it wasn't flawless, at least they hadn't fought each other for the bell. Congratulations, you all pass. Meet me at 6 a.m. Tomorrow at training ground we'll be starting our first mission together as a team. You are all dismissed, Minato instructed before shining away to report the passing team, missing the glare from his students. I swear, he's just like Hokage-sama when it comes to training, Kakashi huffed. You trained with Hokage-sama before, Kakashi-kun? Rin asked curiously. Kakashi nodded but didn't look at her. Yeah, when I was he and his wife took care of me when my dad was away on missions. When I was bored, he would invite me to train with him. And let me tell you, he is a SLV driver when it comes to training. I agree, spoke a voice, startling the three pre-genin. They turned to see a short figure with raven hair and onyx eyes. Ryuchi and I. Obito shouted when he recognized his older cousin. Ryuchi smiled at his cousin. I was just passing by, but I couldn't help overhearing you guys talking about Naruto-sensei's training habits. You know, when I was on his genin team, he would train us until we were at our limits. Not that I minded because all his training paid off. But since your sensei is Minato, I wish you all good luck. That guy has a father complex. Who has a father complex? Said another voice from behind Ryuchi, making the older Uchiha jump in fright. When he saw who was speaking, he gulped. Minato was smiling, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. Hello, Ryu. Fancy meeting you here. I thought you would be gone for a mission. Minato greeted sweetly. I just got back and was on the way to report to sensei, Ryuchi replied awkwardly. Oh, I see. Then I won't delay you from meeting my father. See you next time, Minato said with a smile. Alright. See you then, Ryuchi responded, quickly shining away from the intimidating blonde. Minato huffed at the spot where Ryuchi had just been. Sensei, he heard a voice call. Turning, he saw Rin, her face flushed as she looked away. Minato raised an eyebrow at her reaction. Yes, Rin-chan, he asked. Not that I don't want you here, Sensei, but why are you here? Do you have something for us? She asked curiously, while the boys looked at their sensei expectantly. Realizing why he had returned after reporting to the team, he scratched the back of his head. Alright, since you guys passed, how about I treat you to something to eat to celebrate? He suggested. The three looked at each other and shrugged, indicating their acceptance of the offer. Then let's go. I know just the place, Minato said happily. Before he could take a step, someone crashed into him. Nichan. Two 3-year-old raven-haired children landed on his torso, making him groan in pain while Kakashi, Rin, and Obito stared in shock at the sudden assault. Itsuki, Hatsuna. How many times do I have to tell you not to run far away from me? What if you hurt someone? They heard a shout from a blonde girl a year older than Rin and Obito, who was approaching with an angry expression. Kakashi looked at the newcomer in mild surprise. Izumi-chan. The girl turned and smiled warmly. Oh, hello Kakashi-kun. Long time no see. Kakashi walked toward her casually and gave her an eye smile, shocking his teammates who had never seen him show emotion before. Yeah, me too. So I guess the two that bumped into Minato-sensei are the twins. Izumi sighed. Yeah, they're a handful sometimes. While the two were talking, Minato sat up with the twins still on top of him. He looked at his youngest siblings and couldn't help but smile fondly. Namikaze Kitsune Itsuki and Hatsuna were the twins born to Satsuki. Fortunately, they inherited their mother's raven hair but had different eye colors. Itsuki's were crimson red, like Izumi's, while Hatsuna's were ocean blue, like their father and brother. Each had 2 whisker marks on their cheeks, making them even more adorable. Hey you two, what are you doing out here? Minato asked fondly. The twins grinned at him. We wanted to meet your team, so I took them outside. Rather than let them cause chaos in the house and make Kachan mad, she let them come out, Izumi explained after finishing her conversation with Kakashi. Minato hummed and ruffled their hair, making it messy. Itsuki didn't mind, but Hatsuna pouted at the disruption. Aniki, we're hungry. Can we go for dango? Itsuki asked excitedly. No. I want pudding, Hatsuna protested. Dango. Pudding. Dango. Pudding. The two continued bickering about their favorite desserts until a loud clap startled everyone. They turned to see Izumi, her calm expression commanding attention. Alright you two. We won't be having that for now. We'll eat what Nichan buys for us and accept it in gratitude, understood. The twins nodded, and Izumi smiled approvingly. But now, don't you think you need to introduce yourselves? The twins nodded and stepped forward. Minato smiled at how easily his little sister handled the situation, feeling proud of how polite and nice she had become. He turned back to his students, who still looked confused, especially Obito and Rin. Kakashi appeared aloof as usual, since he already knew the twins. Rin and Obito, let me introduce you to my siblings. Namake's Kitsune Izumi, she's 14 and a chunin. She made it herself last year. Izumi waved at them with a friendly smile. And these two are my youngest. As you can see, they're twins. On the left is Itsuki and on the right is Hatsuna. They are 3 years old. And before you ask, they got their hair color from our mother, and yes, she is an Uchiha. But let's keep it a secret as our mother requested. Minato noticed the questioning look on Obito's face. His father had already explained to him and Izumi about their mother being an Uchiha, and the clan head was aware of it, but they decided to keep it a secret as Satsuki requested, living in hiding with only a select few knowing about her. He wasn't surprised when Izumi unlocked her Sharingan, given her Uchiha BLD. However, he was shocked when her Sharingan turned blue instead of red, a revelation that had surprised even their parents. They had tried to discover the cause and its implications but had found no answers. Anyway, back to the moment at hand. The twins bowed at his team in greeting. We were about to go eat, you can come if you want. And there are some sweets you two can have, but just one each. I don't want you to get cavities. How about that? Minato suggested, looking at his siblings. Itsuki and Hatsuna's eyes sparkled at the mention of sweets, and they dashed out from the training ground. Izumi sighed in defeat while chuckling in amusement, and the two older siblings chased after them, with Team Minato following behind. Meanwhile, in the Forest of Death, whoosh clash of fast breeze and the sound of metal clashing indicated that someone was sparring. Punch after punch, kick after kick, jutsu after jutsu were exchanged. A flash of yellow and white clashed together. Naruto and Tsukumo were having a spar. It had been a while since they last trained together, as they had been busy with paperwork and managing the village's finances. After the incident with Shimura Danzo, the former advisor to the Sandaime, their workload had increased significantly. Naruto had exposed the treachery that Danzo had committed under the Sandaime's rule, including leaking sensitive information to enemy villages. Fortunately, Naruto had seen through Danzo's plans and had joined Tsukumo on a mission that ultimately succeeded, earning Tsukumo praise for saving the village. This only fueled Danzo's fury, as he viewed Naruto as a threat and sought to tarnish his reputation. However, Naruto's kindness towards the villagers made Danzo's efforts futile, which only intensified Danzo's rage. When Naruto was announced as Hokage and disbanded the Root organization, Danzo's hatred grew, and he plotted to eliminate him. Yet, with Tsukumo as Naruto's right-hand man, that would be no easy task. Naruto's power, known as the Fox Sage, far surpassed Danzo's, and attacking the Hokage would be considered treason, punishable by death. The Sandaime was ashamed of how his old friend had fallen from grace. Back to the spar, Naruto and Tsukumo exchanged blows until they reached their limits. Tsukumo unleashed his ultimate jutsu, aiming to finish the fight, but Naruto deflected it, gaining the upper hand and taking down the White Fang instead. I win, Naruto declared confidently, a smirk on his face. Tsukumo sighed in defeat. Alright, you can let me go now. I know I don't stand a chance against you, Naruto. Naruto grinned and released him. We should do this again. It's been a while since we had a spar like this. Tsukumo shook his head. Not that I don't want to, but we have so much work at the office. If we slack off, I have no doubt that the problems will only increase. They both shuddered at the thought of the paperwork piling up on their desks. Suddenly, Naruto's expression brightened. Well, I know the secret to tackling that problem, so I have no issues slacking off, he said with a mischievous grin. Tsukumo sighed again. Of course you do. Only you could figure that out, even the previous Hokage couldn't. Naruto chuckled at his friend's exhaustion. Time skip. The two best friends walked through the village streets, engaged in conversation about their work, missions, and issues concerning other hidden villages. Villagers greeted them, bowing to their Hokage and acknowledging Tsukumo, who returned the greetings politely. How is Hikaru-san? Is she doing well? Naruto asked with concern. Tsukumo smiled fondly. Yeah, she's doing great. Thanks to you, her illness will be manageable for a few more weeks, and she'll be back to good health. That's a relief to hear. I wish for your happiness, Naruto replied, genuinely pleased for his friend. Tsukumo grinned. Thanks, bro. They continued their walk, enjoying each other's company. Time skip. I'm home. Naruto called as he removed his sandals. Welcome home. He heard his wife's voice and couldn't help but smile fondly at her. He walked over and gave her a kiss. I love you. Satsuki smiled and kissed him back. I love you too. They settled into the living room and Naruto stretched, sighing as he felt some tension release. Where are the kids? I didn't sense anyone else in the house, he said, looking around for his children. Izumi brought the twins to their brother, as they were curious about the people on his team. So, they're probably with Minato right now, Satsuki stated to her husband. Naruto hummed in response and embraced his wife fondly. I'm glad you're here with me, Satsuki. If not, I would probably feel lonely raising Minato alone. No one can replace you in my heart, and they never will. You will always be my wife and the mother of our children. I don't know what I would do if I lost you again. I might go crazy and do something I would regret. Satsuki smiled and closed her eyes, gently caressing his golden hair. She had nothing to say, her affection was shown through her actions. She caressed, kissed, and comforted him, and Naruto appreciated it. At least he had her by his side, and that was enough for him. His duties to save the world were complete, and he could finally relax from the burdens he had carried. As the child of prophecy, his mission was finished, and he could breathe in relief, enjoying this new life with his beloved and the family they had built together.